This holiday season, every time you purchase a 12-ounce SnortBucks coffee, a portion of the proceeds will be given to the Penny Foundation, the world's premier charity dedicated to helping down-on-their-luck content creators pay their daily bills.
I need that money. I really do. I need that money. I need my bills, the electric bill, the internet bill.
So stop by your local SnortBucks today and help send some Penny their way.
Right in moral theory if this was a fucking, pure babyface heel situation, but this was a heel program. There were no baby faces.
You know what I'm saying? Just let this motherfucker come on. Yeah, let's do this. And be fresh.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you're now tuned in to the one and only SKYZOO and the one and only Ninth Wonder. Figured I'd put something together real quick with my man Ninth Wonderful Tunes, that's what I call him. Yeah. BK, Winston Salem, the Durham, the Rally, all that. Yeah. You already know what it is. Custom made HOJ. Figure we save a couple lives. It started like this. I sat back and watched all of the bullshit, wondering if it was ever going backtrack. Saw the industry spaz and do a full flip. Then I jumped like, nah, I can't have that. So I thought before I start my debut, I'd take a couple days and get lifted. Put something together to start a breakthrough and hit 'em light, cause this is only the quick shit. I went in the stash, found all the Ninth Wonder beat tapes I had and put them on blast. And yeah, I know Ninth, I'm good friends with Son. These are not off of the net, I ain't fish for none. These was handed to me directly from Mr. Gout, and Mr. Taylor is gonna put his swag around it. So me and Ninth invite y'all to fuck with your neighbors right next door.
It's been a while. Hopefully you guys are doing all right. A lot to go over. Not sure really how much time I have to do all that, but I'll do what I can and whatnot. So that's a thing. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News, the unreliable ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the newsroom and welcome to the Goutopia News Network, your unreliable source for DSP News. This is the Snort Report, brought to you by SnortBucks Coffee Company, the best beverage company. Let's go. Hopefully you guys are doing all right. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully you guys have been doing better than what I've been doing. Excuse me. But that's another conversation for another day, I suppose. What are we here for? Why are you guys here today? We're here to talk about this interview nonsense. I know Metokur threw his hat in there. I know Rich from Review Tech USA threw his hat in there. Some that Steel Toe show, morning show, threw their hat in there. And then there's some people who aren't as well known, I should say, that have thrown their hat in there, and so on and so forth. My intentions are, I should say, is to go through, and we're going to go over the Metokur part. We're going to go over DSP denying it, because that's what DSP do. And I'm actually going to break down to you, at least, I'm not going to really break down. I'm just going to go ahead and throw out some notable names that people would like to see interview DSP and basically tell you why it's not going to happen. I'm also going to make an argument for why why DSP should give DSP should give Metokur the interview and what could come out of it later. Now, as you guys already know quite clearly, DSP just wants a talking head. He doesn't actually want someone who's going to hit him with questions, because he's so worried about WWE champions and so on and so forth. As we go on, I'm going to go ahead and pose questions if I was given the opportunity to interview DSP. He's not going to do that because he's not stupid. If I had the opportunity to interview DSP, it would turn into a debate and it would just turn into a fucking argument really, really fast. But I'm gonna go over some questions that I would hit him with. Obviously, questions that he's not going to be able to answer. I have observed in my short time getting back into the DSP, the Gouty universe, if you will, expanded universe, if you will, that his memory is slowly but surely fading. And it's not something that people, I don't think, are completely picking up on, per se. People are talking really more about how he's spazzing out and how he's becoming more and more desperate, but his memory is starting to slowly but surely fail him too. Very interesting stuff, but that goes back into DSP's mindset that now that he's 40, it sounds like, to me anyway, it sounds like he's ready to die, which it's a shame, because if you go back and look at DSP in his 20s, he didn't do shit, and in his 30s, he didn't do shit. So I guess these are supposed to be like his last years. I may also address some of the issues as it pertains to his next big plan coming about. He's been talking about hopefully being able to get credit again, which actually, I'd be honest with you, I think he already has a credit card, because I'm sure he's probably already run up Catherine's credit, if she even had any. I'm going to talk about his inheritance, or if I don't, I'll do it in a future video or a future broadcast. And I will also talk about him wanting to grab the equity of his home, because I was one of the first people who actually brought that up. And the fact that it's gone exactly the way I told y'all it would is kind of hilarious, because I was kind of hoping he would go another route, because it would just be even more funnier for me to point out, but he's not going to do that. He's going to take the easy way out, because he's a rat, and that's what he does. So anyway, that's just some of the things you guys can kind of look forward to as time goes about. Let's go ahead and get into the situation. Yet again, I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to my TED Talk, so to speak. I'm a bit rusty, but things should work out. By the way, Diggs, we're going to go through his supercut. There are a couple other content creators who already had cuts out there on it, but I'll just go ahead and go with in-house stuff. Big ups to Diggs for getting promoted, so he's essentially my assistant, which means he's the guy who's going to get my SnortBucks, and essentially he's going to be my verbal punching bag as I'm going at Phil. That's just kind of the way that thing goes, but at least he will be getting paid way better than DSP's paying any of his mods or whatever. So there's always that. In any case, big ups to all of you guys, and as long as things go well, I hope to. We'll see how the year goes. We'll see how the end of the year goes. I'd really like to do a 12 days of Goutmas this year, and Snoutmas. Now I think about it for the second channel. We'll see, and maybe a live stream or two. But like I said, we'll see how all that plays out. Anyway, that's what the situation is, and let's go ahead and get into it. I'll see you guys in just a second.
Going backtrack, so the industry spaz and do a full flip. Then I jump like, nah, I can't have that. So I thought before I start my debut, I'd take a couple days and get lifted. Put something together to start a breakthrough, and hit a light, cause this is only the quick shit. I went in the stash, found all the Ninth Wonder beat tapes I had, and put them on blast. And yeah, I know Ninth and good friends with Son. These are not off of the net, I ain't fish for none. These was handed to me directly from Mr. Doubtfit, and Mr. Taylor is gonna put his swag around it. So me and Ninth invite y'all to fuck with your neighbors right next door. Bear witness to the greatest. Yeah, bear witness to what y'all need and what y'all want. Long time coming, so when this comes on, have no fear about the state of the games.
One quick little thing.
Goddamn, got one job, Diggs, and we already screwing up day one, but that's okay. Shit happens. It's a situation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got two supercuts here, and that essentially is going to make up our broadcast. Let's see here. We have notes because I'm a professional. I am not a professional. I just play one on YouTube sometimes. It may be on Rumble or Odyssey. Speaking of which, interestingly enough, in my absence, paying attention to other sectors, if you will, of the internet, seeing the power move that Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law has done since his hit, since the hit that he took, is actually rather interesting, and not to the fact that he's originated it, so to speak. Him doing the law panels where they go over trials, and he has a bunch of law tube or other lawyers that come up there and give their opinions in real time is definitely him. That's definitely a very innovative thing that he's done, and he deserves all of the recognition for that. But when he got yeefed off of YouTube, the fact that he was able to go to Rumble, he was able to go to Odyssey, and he was able to bring, obviously not the 500,000 subs that he has, but or followers that he has, if you will, but to bring over 20, 30, 40,000, and is making good with it, which gives him a lot of, I want to say clout, but really gives him a lot of influence on those platforms, is what Ralph, or of the Ralph Retort, should have done all those years ago with Stream.me before it got all fucked up with that. So you're seeing very clearly what a lot of these people who are getting yeefed off of YouTube for various reasons and moving to other places, that you can start over, because I believe Nick has put out the edict that, hey, I'm not giving YouTube any more super chats over here. I will stream on YouTube occasionally or whatever. So I guess that's ad revenue. But as it pertains to super chats, they're not getting anything off of me. And I think up to the point that he got yeefed, or yeeted, he had made them almost $500,000 of super chats. That's a lot of money, to be honest with you, because Nick Rekieta was up there with like Dr. Disrespect. He was certainly in the top 10 as it pertains to super chatters on YouTube. Obviously, the top 4 or 5 placements go to VTubers, but there was a lot of money there. So and he's Nick's gonna, if YouTube ever wants him to come to the table and negotiate, Nick has a lot on his side. The point of all that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'm trying to tell you, is that you do have options. You do have options out there. There are places to go if you're willing to put in the time to do it. And keep in mind, and this goes for everybody, including myself, if you do, by any situation or chance, end up losing what you've built here on YouTube, you can always rebuild. You're never really starting from scratch because you have experience. And for whatever reason, that's something on the internet that people take for granted or think that doesn't exist, and it's not true. You have experience. From sub number 1 to sub 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever the case may be, you have a lot of experience that you have gained through those milestones. So you're never really just losing out. You know what I'm saying? So it's just something to think about, because people seem to be scared to start over, or whatever the case may be. Anywho, so like I said, we're gonna go over Metokur's Halloween stream, which was October 30th of 2022, and then we'll go over a segment from DSP's Bottom Bitch podcast, which was November 1st of 2021. I'll have the links to the original videos down in the description. Big ups to Diggs for the supercuts, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much it on that. And at the time of me recording this, I do know that DSP has turned down the Metokur interview, which he's stupid for doing so, because, to be honest, for DSP to achieve what he wants, he can't do just one interview. So, like, right now, he's trying to suck on, like Moist Critical or whatever the case may be. And to be honest, Moist might not even do the interview because it doesn't behoove him to do so. It doesn't benefit him to do so. Let me fuck the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Let's go ahead and start getting this bacon cut up. Truth be told, anybody who's going to do the interview, no matter how small you are or how big you are, you're not going to really get any benefit. You're not. As a much, much smaller content creator, you may get some short-term gains from it, but you'll never see anything in the long term that'll make it worthwhile. If you're a much bigger content creator, guess what? Because I'm sure most of you already know this anyway, you're going to get more out of reacting to the fucking interview than actually doing the interview itself. So let's not act like DSP getting an interview with anybody is being held as some type of fucking holy grail to anybody except those who think they can profit off of it in the short term. Period. And the only person that really goes to is Rich and whoever the morning show guy is. That's it. And even the morning show guy, if he's as close to Keem, let's reword that. If Keem has any type of open dialogue with the dude from the morning show thing, even Keem would probably tell him that it's easier just to react to that shit later. It's way more profitable. The only person who really gives a fuck is Rich. And the only reason why is because Rich has been chasing DSP for over a decade. That's it. And even though the Quartering or Jeremy or Mr. Boxed Wine himself has already proven that the interview doesn't do jack shit, doesn't mean jack shit, and isn't going to go nowhere. Like, let's call another spade a spade real fast. The only reason why the Quartering did the interview with DSP was to show up Rich. That's the only reason why he did it. Rich wanted the interview super bad, and the Quartering was able to get in there, and he got the interview. And the quartering didn't even give a fuck about the interview. You want to know why? Because one, he conceded to all of his bullshit. The only question that he had, I guess, that he thought was even mildly interesting was where fucking DSP's pig juice went. And the quartering was sick throughout the whole fucking interview. He seemed like he was more keen to get the fuck out of there than sit around and deal with DSP and his garbage. Because he knew that DSP lied to him the entire fucking time. So there was no value there. And the quartering didn't have the energy to call him out. And even if he wanted to, he had already taken the fucking knee to him. And he probably paid him for it. Because I haven't seen any proof otherwise. And up to that point, for all of you who know your lore, DSP wasn't doing an interview with anybody unless you were paying anywhere between $600 to $800 minimum for it. Which is ridiculous. Clearly. So there was nothing that was really going to come out of it. There was no value. The only person who gives a shit about that is Rich. Which is weird, because I don't know if I could say Rich thinks that there's some camaraderie between the two of them. Rich has certainly done a lot of what DSP has. Let's call another spade a spade. Rich likes to sit there and say, "Oh, I've learned a lot from DSP, and I've seen his mistakes, and I was able to avoid them." That's not necessarily true. If you know Rich's history, you know he's done a lot of the shit that DSP did. A whole lot of it. So you're no better than he is. And I think that's why Rich wants the goddamn interview so bad. That's the reason why Rich wants to confront him so bad. He wants to prove the distinction between the two. That's why Rich is okay with leaning into the whole lolcow situation where DSP isn't. Matter of fact, the last time, Rich, that you went ahead and begged DSP to come on your fucking show, or on your podcast, or whatever the case may be, weren't you, what was that shit called? Exposed? Whatever. What happened to that? And the reason why I'm saying that is because when DSP denied you the last time, it's in a Mighty D video, it was during a throwback Street Fighter night. You got really, really, really salty at DSP saying, "Oh, I don't need you to come on my show. I already have such and such person. I already have such and such person. I'm going to already have these people come on, so I don't need you." Well, then, why were you sitting there crying about it then when he said no? Like, that doesn't sound like someone who's independent of someone else and doesn't really need them. You sound like a bitch. That's what you sounded like. You sounded like a bitch. And with that being said, whatever happened to the Exposed podcast or whatever the hell you called it? I don't ever see it no more. I don't think anybody does. Not that I ever watched it, to be honest with you. But, you know what I'm saying? I know that you've done them. So what happened to that? Just putting it out there. On top of that, too, it must hurt you just a little bit. Must hurt your fucking pride or ego or whatever it is that you little cows have. To know that someone like Quantum TV was able to bring you down to your motherfucking knees, despite the fact that you have 1 million subs. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because subs and views don't mean shit. And Rich is a perfect example of that. He had a million sub channel, and someone like fucking Quantum took his ass down. Look at fucking Ackman. He has more subs than Rich, and he got fucking taken down. Granted, the Ackman did a lot of that himself, to be honest with you. But, you know, it is what it is on that. So even having 1 million subs or over 1 million subs doesn't mean shit if you don't have the influence to go along with it. Where you have someone like Quantum who sits in his fucking Discord all day bitching and complaining and whatnot, saying supposedly scared he's gonna get anally raped and shit, fucking crying about dumb shit, and he was able to fucking take you down on YouTube, essentially, or he was able to threaten your channel, I should say. And then Quantum went ahead and turned around and told YouTube, "Oh, I didn't understand the actual the copyright or the takedown system on YouTube. So it's not that I abused it. I'm an ignorant bastard and I didn't understand how it worked properly." And YouTube was like, "Okay." And they let him walk. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy to know that you could get taken down that quickly over nothing. And all of that was over an Elden Ring fucking review or whatever, for some really bad hot takes, to be honest with you. You should get, if you haven't had a chance to read into that, read into it. Check that out and shit. And look at, there's a bunch of videos out there that really break down what the real story was. But that shit was all fucked up. There was all kinds of bullshit that was being put around that didn't happen the way it happened, and it made a bunch of people look silly. It was unfortunate, and truth be told, Quantum's a piece of shit for that. But YouTube let him get away with it, and the rest of y'all just got exposed. No pun intended, Rich. But the rest of y'all just got exposed out there, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate that you couldn't make a video on someone without there being some type of repercussions, right, Rich? Like all those people who made videos on you stating their opinion, and one of them you allegedly doxed, and the rest of them you took their channels down for free speech, for having the right to have an opinion on something that you said or did. That really sucks, don't it, Rich? It's kind of unfortunate something like that happened, right, Rich? Just like how your friend Monday Matt was all about free speech until he decided to go ahead and take other people's free speech away. Isn't that amazing? And then when you go back and look at his situation with Zoe Quinn, he was actually trying to bait out Anita. He wanted Anita to attack him, not Zoe. And because he wasn't ready for the person who came after him, Metokur, or Internet Aristocrat at that time, was able to swoop in with it, basically give his opinion, and then all Monday Matt had to do was run with it. Instead, Monday Matt's in all these little all these little backroom conversations with other people saying, I don't understand why they're making Internet Aristocrat the leader. I was the one who, I'm the one who was the first casualty of war, and whatever the case may be. Why isn't people looking to me? I don't know. Just saying, it's stuff like that people don't remember, or people don't want to talk about, and whatnot. I mean, why would DSP want to be interviewed by you? He could, looking at you is like looking at himself. He doesn't want to see that. He doesn't want that being thrown back in his face. I'd have thought you'd been smart enough by now to know that. Anywho, whatever. Let's go ahead and get into the situation. Here we go.
DSP related news. Now I know you think, oh God, am I going to talk about his car dealership thing where he got suckered into paying like $8,000 for spark plugs because he doesn't know how machines operate? No. I understand his garage bill got leaked and everybody found out that DSP doesn't understand how automobiles work and then went in on a bag-a-thon. But what I want to talk about...
Well, if you don't want to go ahead and speak on that, I will a little bit. At least for right now. That was hilarious. But on top of that, it just goes to show that if you are ignorant to anything and everything that goes on in the real world outside of your little fucking bubble, in your little fucking room and whatnot, then you're going to be taken advantage of. Which is even more ironic because DSP lies and gets over on people all the time. But yet, he's the first one to sit there and tell you, oh, these people that come after me, they're just fucking kids. They're not adults. They don't understand how real life works. Matter of fact, you stupid son of a bitch, how the fuck did it cost you $200 to get a car towed if you have car insurance? Do you not have full coverage? Did you think, oh, well, I'll never need to get towed, so that won't be a big thing? Like, I don't understand that. That part kind of really threw me off because it's a 2017. If I remember correctly, it's a new car. It's not used. If it's a used car, you should definitely have full coverage. But if it's a new car, it's definitely recommended that you should have full coverage. And if you did, most car insurance plans have towing up to between 200 and like 500 miles. Your dumbass was 15 minutes away from home. So I don't understand how you pay $200 for a tow, where if you have car insurance, you should be able to get a tow. Now, I've only ever had full coverage, so I don't know if you have partial coverage. Would getting a tow? Would you be able to get a tow through your insurance company if you only have partial coverage? I'm not really quite sure about that because, like I said, I've only had full coverage. But I don't know. It makes me wonder because if this idiot does have full coverage and he still called a tow company to tow him, he's a fucking moron. But then we can even go on further than that. If you were supposedly broke and had no money that day, or you barely had enough money to get groceries and supplies and all that, where did the $200 for the tow come from? Where did the $1,200? Sorry, you shouldn't laugh at someone's ignorance, but fuck it. Where the fuck did the $1,200 for the actual mechanics bill come from? Like, where did you get the money to cover that? And then you're paying, what, $800+ for a television that essentially you're on a payment plan through Amazon? Like, goddamn, dude, like, you just don't mind owing people money, huh? And then you said you spoke to your father. Now, it's ironic because I really don't smell no motherfucking bacon cooking. It's funny that you said that you spoke to your father because you very rarely speak to your father. You only speak to your mother, right? And if you were well prepared when you left your house, we would have been able to handle this car situation a little bit better. Or you could have even have called your father when the initial the car issue happened and asked for his advice then, but you didn't do that. And the reason why you didn't do it is because you weren't in a position to ask your father for money then. You were able to ask him for the money later. See, that's what I'm thinking what that situation or that scenario was. You know what I'm saying? Because you never talk, DSP never talks about speaking to his father. It's always to his mother. Always. Right? It's always. I mean, he says he speaks to his parents once a week, but really it's his mother. So you must have been hella desperate to have to go ahead and reach out to your father and ask him for this money. You must have been desperate. But then again, because you were 15 minutes away from home, and clearly you didn't say anything about, oh, I had groceries in the car, you know, anything cold like milk or anything dairy or whatever, and you were in a mad dash or anything like that. You never mentioned any of those things as it pertains to that. And like I said, if you were 15 minutes away from home, I would assume you were coming home more than you were leaving home. It makes me wonder about what that full situation and or scenario was, but we can address that at another time. They took advantage of him because he had no choice. He was at the mercy of, what was it, Firestone or whoever it was that he went to. He was at their mercy because DSP don't think well on his feet. And all he wants to do is get from point A to point B, and he doesn't really care about how he gets there as long as he gets there. But then he's going to come crying to you guys with a sob story about how he got ripped off, and he knows he got ripped off. And then this whole nonsense about, oh, it was a trap, and I did this on purpose to see how my detractors, trolls, haters, and critics were going to react. And then that right there would justify me not having to go into an interview and show any proof to back up any of my claims. So basically what DSP is saying here, let me give you the piggy translation. You have no choice but to just accept my word as law because I can't divulge anymore because these people are going to hurt me. So basically, going back to something that he's done before, if you know your lore, you know where I'm getting ready to go with this, I had to lie to you guys to protect my family. Same concept. Same thing about this whole interview dumb shit in the first place. How did that all come up, ladies and gentlemen? A bunch of bots showed up on a stream or two and inflated his numbers all crazy, and DSP had to have known they were bots, but he tried to sit there and talk to them like they were real people, like they were Jasper, if you will. And for whatever reason, he got his head inflated because he made a bunch of money that day too. And now decided that he wants to do a tell-all. Oh, you mean like the whole Pro Jared situation? Where he had those two tweets on Twitch? Not Twitch, sorry. He was on Twitch when it happened. But he had those two tweets that quote-unquote went viral. And then all of a sudden he wanted to use that as a springboard to go ahead and address all of the claims, all the slander, if you will, and defamation that's been posed against him, even though the list wasn't even his. The list belonged to Dragon Killer. And then he did that off Pro Jared's back. And then it makes me wonder if, after this whole situation with Keffels and watching what they do with their Twitch or Twitter, how do we know that all of those likes or all of those impressions, if you will, all of the interactions, I should say, that those tweets generated, how do we know some of that wasn't botted? See, now I'm curious about a bunch of shit. Because now there's just a bunch of shit that just seems weird. You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there. That's really just whatever. Make of that what you will. But the point that I'm trying to make is, what DSP is doing now is no different than what DSP has done in the past before. This is why he doesn't want to talk to anybody who knows his history, because DSP is a creature of habit. Whether it takes 3 months or 3 years, he's going to use something that he's used in the past. That's what this whole interview bullshit is. It's just rehashing the Pro Jared and the whole debunking saga all over again. That's all this is. And you go ahead and put any detractor who's worth his fucking salt up against that, and DSP is going to lose. And then if you don't even want to take it, let's say you don't want to take a detractor, right? Let's say you want to go ahead and move on, someone who's done some detractor content and moved on and done other shit, right? So you have Gundam, you have Memology 101. Fucking hey, an interview with Memology 101 would be great, but DSP ain't gonna do that shit because the dude knows too much about his history, and then he knows too much shit on the back end too. Same thing with Tevin. He's not gonna do an interview with Tevin. Tevin not only Tevin has forgotten more than what most of us will really ever know, but on top of that, Tevin knows and or remembers some of the shit that happened on the back end. Some of the shit that happened in the freedom chats and all that bullshit back in the day there. DSP's not going to want to answer to any of that if he can even remember any of that. You know what I mean? So none of that's going to happen. But this is the one time, the one opportunity that DSP should pick someone and actually address those things. Instead of going to somebody who's just really, really popular, who don't know much about him, he should address someone who's going to be reasonable and who can take situations and break them down and ease DSP into what you guys want now. Because honestly, some of the questions that most people would ask him now means jack shit. People have already broken the law and or put them... Let's reword that. Because I don't want to make everybody sound like they're a goddamn criminal, because it's not. But it wasn't worth. I feel like a lot of the things that has been done recently, a lot of people put themselves at risk to do it, and it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it to confirm something that we already fucking knew, whether it was suspicion or not, whether it was pig crafting and or pig theorizing or whatever the case may be. We already knew. And sooner than later, he was going to end up exposing himself. He always does. You guys know what the fucking routine is around here. You give DSP enough rope and he'll hang himself. I just feel like people now have gotten so fed up that they're willing to do whatever to get him dead to rights. And that's going to be problematic later. If you want an example of that, look at Wings. Not even look at Wings. Go back and look at what happened. Look at the situation with Jenna, DSP's sister-in-law. If the story's true, to prove a point, some dude went ahead and fucked her just to prove that she was out there hoeing or whatever the case may be, or for whatever reason. Look at what's going on with Wings and fucking Kelly and what was that guy's name? Morning After Kill, I think. He was literally, the way I see it, and if you go through the DMs and everything, it wouldn't have taken him long. I'd say another month, maybe not even maybe that long, maybe like another 2 weeks to a month, and he could have easily have had Kelly in a hotel room. I don't think that would have been a problem. I think Kelly's looking for that anyway. So, and we can talk about that on another day. So, ever since the situation with Chris Chan and just some of the shit that's going around the locale sectors, if you will, people are really upping the ante. People are really pushing the envelope to get evidence or really to try to humiliate people. And this is where we're going. You know what I mean? And that's something that you guys really need to take into account. The whole entertainment aspect for most people is just starting to wane. People are like, I want evidence now. I want him to be caught dead to rights on something. Even if DSP doesn't get his up and comings, if you will. The person who can prove, who, let's say, gets into a situation with Catherine and has her in a hotel room and has, whatever, and he can produce pictures or even like a low quality fucking sex tape out of that shit, DSP's going to eat it. He's going to be back on stream the next day either which way. But that's where we're getting to now. If you can't hurt their pockets directly, then it's all about humiliation. And that's what's getting ready. That's what the situation is about to play itself out to. This is where we're going. The point you have your P&L, which is point and laugh. Then you have PLP, which is point, laugh, and profit. Now dudes are willing to just go ahead and outright humiliate. That's where we're going. if we're not already there. And I think from a legal standpoint, it's not worth getting yourself hemmed up to catch this ass clown, or any lol cow for that matter. You know what I'm saying? But you can't tell people what to do. It's the internet. They're gonna do what the fuck they want. But you know, you have to be careful. But this is where it's going. This is really where people want to take it, just so they have their evidence or their proof or whatever the case may be. All I'm saying is be careful. That's all I'm saying. Just be careful. But DSP in particular is going to fuck himself up. He has nothing else. He has nobody else. He's literally alone. He talks to Jasper probably more than he talks to Catherine. And you can see it. You can see it in his mannerisms. You know what I'm saying? You can see how he's conducting himself. You can see how frustrated he is. The dude's alone. That's why he's more willing to talk than ever before.
Video out asking people to come interview him. DSP, oh my God, Cancer Man. DSP is out there asking for a sit-down interview with anybody that's interested. Even said he's open to having them email him. And chat, what I'm thinking is, there's nobody better for this job than me. But I'm going to need your help.
Now, while Jim gets ready to go into his proposal, let's talk about some of our candidates out there, like our good ones, if you will. Now, granted, DSP would have, if he hasn't already, would say no to any of them, even if they did actually propose an interview with him directly or make a request for it. Tevin's automatically out. Just off the rip. Tevin knows way too much about him. Tevin is way too calm, which is just going to make DSP uneasy in the same way that it made Fred from SOK uneasy. Tevin knows how to trap him. Tevin would know how to say certain things to get DSP to devolve shit that he's not going to want to say. Like, Tevin literally just knows too goddamn much about him. It's not going to work. Theo's another good one that I haven't heard anybody really put his name out there, but they should. Theo's another one. He knows way too much about DSP. If you've ever talked to Theo in any type of way, shape, or form, he's an easy dude to talk to. At least in the one or two interactions that I've had with him. He's an easy guy to talk to. It wouldn't take long for someone like Theo to trip him up. If you guys want to go ahead and move from your OGs and move up a little bit more, fair enough. Let's go ahead and talk about Ann Leet. Let's talk about... I feel like Piece of Peace would be alright for a minute, but then once DSP starts lying to him, Piece of Peace is just going to flip on his ass. So Pop is out of that shit. Because he's not going to sit there and deal with the bullshit. You don't have to. Ann Leet would probably stay in there for a good minute or two, but I think DSP, I think someone like an Ann Leet, yet again, he's going to be too calm, and that's going to make DSP uneasy. So he's not going to like that shit because DSP is going to be too, he's going to be too paranoid, and he's going to be too apprehensive, waiting for the punch to come through. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's going to freak him out, and he's just going to end up just dipping out of the interview. Or because of how Ann Leet and most of the people who follow him, how their approaches, I should say, to DSP content, DSP is just going to assume that he's being set up and he just doesn't realize it, and he's just going to leave anyway, if he even ever showed up. So that doesn't even work out. I've already told you, let's go ahead and jump over there to, it's a Gundam. Yet again, another guy has too much information on him, and DSP is going to be uneasy around him. Period. He's not going to manipulate or get over on Gundam. Gundam knows too much about his bullshit, so it's not going to work. If you want to go ahead and go with Steel Toe or Review Tech USA, I've already kind of jumped into why Rich isn't going to get that interview. Steel Toe's not going to get it because guilt by association. You're associated with Keem and you're associated with Rich, so that's a hell fucking no, all the way around. Yeah, so you sending your wife or whoever she is to go out there and try to reach out to DSP, you wasted her time doing that. So you might want to think about that in the future. As it pertains to Keem definitely knew he wasn't getting that interview, because if you couldn't get fucking DSP's dumbass to come to the table for $50,000, then he damn sure wasn't going to get an interview out of it, and it wouldn't have been worth Keem's time anyway. So fuck all that. So who do you really have left? Like, PewDiePie's not gonna do it. PewDiePie has already said on a couple of different occasions, hey, I'm not gonna give that guy any type of spotlight or whatever, he's a piece of shit. So that's not gonna happen. Moist Critical, whether he does it, I don't think he'll do it, but because I don't see the benefit in him doing it, to be honest. To any of those people that I've named and all the people that I haven't named, as I said earlier on in this broadcast, you will benefit far more from reacting to the interview than actually conducting it. It's just not going to work. You know what I'm saying? You're really just you're going to waste your time, and you're not going to get anything out of it. Not unless you can trap DSP and shit. And even if you do, he already kind of knows where you guys are going to attack him from. Excuse me. Unless you guys know your lore, and you can guide him through some of his early years and some of those misgivings, some of those shortcomings, and then go ahead and lead him into something current. But you have to kind of go through the lore to do it. It's the only real way. Because if not, anything that's current, he's going to turn the stone on you. Period. He's going to turn the stone. And it's not a matter of, oh, you're not charismatic enough or you're not smart enough or whatever the case may be. He's paranoid. He's paranoid as fuck. And you guys can sit here and try to suck him off all day on his accomplishments and outlasting this and outliving this, and oh, you're still kept relevant because of this group of people, and are they really hidden fans of yours, or whatever lame ass shit that he would expect you guys to do to fucking accommodate him, right? Or to appease him, if you will. But even then it won't work. He will sit there and take all of your bullshit compliments and turn to stone immediately. And then this guy's he's in your fucking Discords, and he's in your fucking some of you anyway. He's in some of your Twitter fucking DMs anyway, or he has, not DSP himself, but he has people that are in there. So that's not going to really help anyway. He's going to have a good idea what your plan of attack is. At this point, I'm pretty sure Kiwi Farms is back up, so he's definitely eagle-eyed in that shit, which is ironic because he kind of didn't seem like he had a problem. He's been talking about it needing to go away for the longest time. But when it did go away, he seemed a bit more disheveled while it was gone. Like he was missing something in his daily routine. Now, keep in mind, I'm kind of just speeding through what he's been doing over the last X amount of months because I haven't been really paying attention to it. I've been watching some other stuff. But just to give you guys an idea, you know what I'm saying? He seems like he was a bit disheveled in the time that Kiwi Farms was down. So, who knows? And yet again, even though I'm sure he has somebody, or he has probably even a few people that are in some of you guys' Discords or whatever the case may be, it's not enough. It's not enough. He has to kind of decode shit when it's like that. When it's on Kiwi Farms, it's a bit more blunt. And that's what he's kind of looking for. DSP is not a deep thinker, if you will. You know what I'm saying? He relies on other people to gather the information, decode it, and then fucking feed it to him. It is what it is. He can't do it on his own because he doesn't have enough social interaction with people to do so. And yet again, he's scared of it. You know what I'm saying? On Kiwi Farms is different. He can take it in at face value. They're a bunch of assholes. They're this, there's that. And then he can go ahead and throw it out on the fucking Bottom Bitch podcast later and act like he's ahead of the fucking game when he's not. He's just not. He's behind the 8 ball. He's behind the queue. He's always been behind. You know what I'm saying? Ever since he started YouTube, he's been behind. He doesn't want to do what's trendy, or he doesn't want to do what's actively successful because he thinks he's a sellout. But once those opportunities and those avenues are taken away from him, then all of a sudden, look at what happened. Look at what these people did to me. These people took these opportunities away, despite the fact that he's the one who fucked himself over. I'll give you a perfect example, and then we'll move on. Sorry, it's been a while, and it's been a while since I've done any DSP content, so I'm kind of restless. Look at his situation about sponsorships and endorsements. He says he doesn't want to do them. It's for sellouts, shills, walking billboards. He's above all that. But then he'll come back and tell you, I need help, I need support because I don't have these different opportunities and avenues that these other guys have because the trolls and everything took it away from me. Even though DSP has a proven track record of not being able to sell shit. Let's be honest, he can't sell his own shit. He can't sell his own merchandise. So how the fuck are you going to push something for a major company? He expects the company to really do all the work, and he thinks his name is going to carry the day. But it don't. And since DSP likes his numbers and everything, just like Rich, numbers don't lie. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't, as it pertains to those type of situations. And I bring Rich up because Rich has been dropped on a lot of endorsements and sponsorships over the years too. That's kind of what led to that Big Cheese situation, right, Rich? You felt like you didn't need to pay dude his $200 because, hey, business agreements get dropped all the time, and this is the cost of doing business. And then you saw what that shit ended up doing to your ass later. Maybe you should have just paid what you owed. Maybe. Just because it was done to you, maybe you should have been the bigger man and done it to someone else. Well, you are the bigger man, obviously. But anyway, at least figuratively, anyway. Maybe you could have just gone ahead and been the bigger man and paid that $200 and saved yourself all that trouble. The very trouble that follows you to this very goddamn day. Something to think about. But whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's hashing up some old shit, right? But it's like that. You know what I'm saying? DSP doesn't have those opportunities because, one, he's too lazy, and two, he can't really push anything. He can't market anything. You hear DSP on his podcast or his pre-stream, that's really what it is, but whatever. You hear him every day trying to sell you guys on the idea that he is this tormented artist that the world doesn't understand, and he sees things differently than other people, and that's the reason why he gets lambasted, and that's the reason why he gets treated like shit. But he also tries to convey to you that there is value and there is worth in what he does. That's why his content has to be meaningful. Well, okay, fucknut. What about the content being entertaining? You don't determine if the content is meaningful or not. It's the people that are taking it in do. You want to know why I say that? Because you depend on crowdfunding. And once you put that power into the hands of the people who you depend on to give you money day by day, you lose the right to say that your content is meaningful. That right there is completely and utterly in the hands of the mob. Or the group as a whole, if you will. I'm just going to call them the mob. That's how that works. But see, DSP wants to dictate his terms, right? And yet cry broke or cry victim. That's the reason, and I've told you this before, that's the reason why the vest streak failed. Because instead of shutting the fuck up and being dressed up like Mr. Potato Head and take everything that comes with it, because you're getting your little $200 a day, so shut the fuck up. You wanted to sit there and be like, oh, I don't want to have the platinum vest on. Oh, I don't want to put this vest on. Oh, it's too hot in here, so I'm going to go ahead and just switch over to this at a later time, but I'm not going to tell you guys when I'm going to do it. Or, oh, hey guys, it'd be great if you guys could hit the vest streak before we start getting into gameplay. Though I would very much appreciate that because it's pretty hot outside, and, I don't want to seem like I'm ripping anybody off. But, if I'm uncomfortable, then I'm not going to enjoy the game, and then you guys are going to have a bad experience. Piggy translation. Give me my motherfucking money so I can put the vest on during the pre-stream, and then once the gameplay starts and I'm starting to get my ass beat because I can't figure out basic puzzles that a 12 or a 13-year-old can figure out, I can take off the vest, and I still got your money. That's what that is. That's why we needed to do the poll for all the different type of vests or whatever. So this way he can go through and eliminate vests day by day. And he has full control of what vest is on the poll at any given time. That's the whole point of all that. That's not hard to figure out. And at least some of the smooth brains over there did. And that's just one of the many reasons on why the vest streak failed. It also failed because he put the validity of the vest streak in the hands of two people. Fucking OIC and Swaggins. They were the ones that essentially had full and utter control over it because they were the ones that were throwing in the big money to make sure the vest streak got hit. And once them coming through and playing Captain Save-A-Ho on a daily basis became the status quo, No one else felt the need to do anything else. They could throw in their little $1, $2 or whatever, $5 or $10, and then they could keep it pushing. It wasn't no big deal. Unless you were Jax and you were throwing your $100 or your $150 in at night, which ended up fucking his dumb ass over, because how the fuck are you in your early 30s and you don't have a car? How does that work? Why is it that you had to wait until your 30s to even start saving up for a car? Unless you have some type of, you come from a bad situation, you have some drastic circumstance. It doesn't look like that's what your situation is. One could make the assumption that it seems like you live at home. So then what's your excuse there? Unless you have like some type of some physical like disablement or something, or even a mental one, to be honest, that would prevent you from being able to drive. I don't know. So anyway, that's a whole nother can of worms in itself. So that's where our situation is. And that's what it's been. And the vet streak was the best he was ever going to get. It's never going to get any better than that. And he's been trying to rehash that ever since. And he feels like a fucking dumbass, because we went from just putting on a vest for $100, and then I think if you wanted a hat, it was like $150 or $200. Excuse me. To now, we have to do a $50 goal, a $100 goal, and a $150 goal, which all is pretty stupid. And you've become you always were a Muppet, but you've become the very Muppet that you said that you accused people like Markiplier and Ninja of being. Look at you. And you're supposed to be a 40-year-old man, so not that him being 40 means anything and whatnot. Ageism is a thing, but him being 40 doesn't a thing. Just go with it. But the fact that you're a 40-year-old man who's supposedly a mature adult that runs a business and has a family, but you're playing dress up every day for a bunch of people who are collecting disability checks, or who can barely handle the responsibilities of being an adult on their own? Where's the validity in that? And where is the actual value of investing time or money into that? The best that DSP could do, to continue with our narrative on who could or should interview him, one of his best bets is Nick Rekieta. But Nick is going to catch him lying, or he's going to catch him saying something that doesn't sound right to him, and he's going to pry into it. And if DSP runs on that platform, it'll be just as bad, or if worse, if he ran from Tevin or It's a Gundam or Ann Leith or anybody else. It does him no favors at all. And the fact that you won't show evidence or proof forces people to go off and do and look up the information on their own. That's what this idiot doesn't understand. When he put out the edict that, hey, I'm not going to show information because I have to lie and protect myself and my family, it forced people to go out and do the research on their own. Now your word has no value. And thus, it gives them no reason to take you at face value. He screwed himself over. This is basic shit. This is extremely basic shit. Especially when you have a quote-unquote hate mob like you do. They're not there for no reason. You see shit like that over there in the Cobra-verse with King Cobra JF. Or King Kirby. Despite his disability, that dude's a fucking bona fide liar. Clearly. And he's a massive fucking alcoholic. And that didn't even need to happen. He started drinking because he wanted to fit in. Now he can't even stop. His hair's falling all out. Teeth are going to probably be next. His body's definitely failing on him. Cobra's Josh, if you will. But that's his first name anyway. Cobra's fucked. And he's only 31, I think. And he is utterly fucked. And he can blame that shit on the trolls and everything himself. The trolls didn't tell him to start drinking. He did that on his own. And that coughing that he's doing is becoming more... That coughing is going to eventually put him in a fucking coffin. That shit sounds so goddamn bad. No one should be hacking up shit like that at his age. His hygiene is horrible, which is only working against his immune system. It's really bad for a lot of these locals out here. Shit's getting ugly fast. And the point of all this, ladies and gentlemen, is the majority of it is self-inflicted. How do you let somebody on the internet dictate your everyday life? And make it stick? Explain that. If you can. If that's the case, get the fuck off the internet and get your mind right. Anywho, let's continue.
Help, chat. Because DSP, he's not my biggest fan. Now, I used to make fun of him on Brightside Bob, did streams making fun of him, and they're still funny to me. But I did do a catfishing video where I exonerated him by showing it was complete bullshit. So that should kind of like, that should equal out.
Okay.
But I want
it's funny. You can still find, excuse me, you can still find some of the, you can still find all of Metokur's stuff, especially from those early days. And they are hilarious. And truth be told, Metokur is kind of underselling himself here a little bit. But Metokur had introduced a whole generation of people to DSP. You know what I'm saying? He's your favorite detractor's favorite DSP content creator, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think anybody has done less content on DSP than Metokur, and whose influence carries to this very day. You know what I mean? And so when I say that you know what I'm saying, your favorite detractor is more than likely influenced by Metokur. And other people, of course, but you know what I'm saying? Excuse me, Metokur, Brightside Bob, Jim, or whatever the case may be, all holds weight like that. If you go back and listen to the old Ralph retort streams or whatever, when they get into like the Q&A stuff, there's always a DSP quote in there somewhere down the line that Metokur will speak on or whatever the case may be. And he doesn't even follow DSP close like that. Not super close. I mean, this is the same guy, Metokur, who tried to convince Freddy Boy of SOK to be like, hey, it's not worth A-logging him like that. There are other people out here to laugh about. Expand. Branch out. Excuse me, if you're really trying to grow the brand. You know what I'm saying? Because if not, it's going to end up leading into what it ended up leading into. And I think that's one of the theories that I still hold, that Metokur knew how SOK was going to go at the end. I think he knew how it was going to all fall out. That's why he never chose to speak on it. Because I think he already had an idea of where it was going. And I think if you see in some of his appearances on the Soulcast, I think he tried, I'm not saying he tried really hard because it's not his place to do so, but I think he tried to direct it. He tried to redirect it, if it will, and give him focus, because clearly Freddy looked up to Jim and held him in high regard. Jim didn't misuse that, but he didn't want to see him go down the way he did. And I think you could say that for anybody that Metokur has endorsed at one time or another, or has showed any interest into. At the end of the day, it's supposed to be about laughing at the internet. You know what I'm saying? And it's very easy for people to take shit too seriously. It's very easy to get mad at this shit. And that shit right there can end up leading into a bunch of shit. And I can tell you that, like, well, not on the gay option, I was never into that. But yeah, I've gotten angry at this shit. Sure I have. Be the first one to tell you. Did I need to? Nope. Did I get some really did I have some fucking rants that were, I can even look back at now and think, God damn, that was in rare form. Yeah, I can say that for sure. But I can definitely tell you I got mad at some of that silly shit. Or at least I was at least angry at some of it. Nothing that I'd lose sleep over. But certainly I've gotten angry at it. A lot of people do. It is what it is. It's the human aspect of it. DSP represents the worst aspects of all of us. If you can't admit that to yourself, then you're just clearly lying to yourself. There is something about DSP that everybody can see in him. There's a part about you that you don't like, I should say, that you can see in Darksydephil in some type of way, shape, or form. It's not a matter of, or at least I don't think so, it's not a matter of DSP's money. His money doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? How he's kind of sloughs his way through life doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? That's only to his own detriment, nobody else. You know what I mean? I think what people hate is the fact that he's a scumbag and he throws it in people's face and he keeps getting away with it. That can work your nerves. You know what I'm saying? I can understand that. Anybody can. Is it worth getting mad at? No, because then you start losing focus, and then you start wanting to take shit into your own hands to see that, you know, so you can kind of make him suffer, if you will, and try to hide it behind the guise of being morally upstanding and all that nonsense. At the end of the day, karma, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, will come back on DSP. And he knows it, and he's scared of it. He's scared of it. And let that be. And if you can catch DSP slipping to provide evidence for whatever your theory or your thesis is, or whatever the case may be, so be it. But it's nothing drastic to where we're gonna start breaking into his house now to try to find shit. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna fucking steal his car to see if he really has 60,000 miles on that bitch. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, being mad at Darksydephil, or being upset at him at the very least, is normal. Should you do it? No. But I will, at the very least, I'm not going to get mad at you if you've gotten mad at him. Because that makes me a fucking hypocrite, because I've been mad at him too. And I've done it in a very public fucking type of way. It is what it is. That's just the human aspect of it. But he will get his in the end. It's a game of waiting. And if you're not here for the long haul, then no problem, but you're not going to have a lot of fun being here if that's the case. And that's the reason why people say, hey, if you're really getting angry at this shit, take a break from it. That's not what caused my last break, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I've taken hiatuses, most people have. And it just comes out of just general frustration. But there's no point in being frustrated at a fucking loser online and shit. You can go ahead and make content on him and point and laugh and shit. You can certainly profit off it. If you're going to put the time into it, as I've always said, there's no problem with profiting from it, as far as I'm concerned. If you're going to sit there and spend the time doing it, then do it. You know what I'm saying? And do it well. Do it as well as you can, I should say. You know what I mean? But don't go around and saying that you're not going to do it or you're above it and whatnot. Don't do that, because things change, clearly. So let's not do that. Let's not act like we're above it, to be perfectly honest. But DSP will always get his in the end. It is what it is. Just sit back and wait. You know what I'm saying? Just sit back and wait that shit out. So that's the fun part of it. At least for me, watching him break down slowly. Because as I've said to you, it's like, sadly, it's like watching someone die really, really slow. And it didn't need to happen. And and the whole concept that he's a cautionary tale, which he is, he's really, though, you should really look at it as he's the benchmark of everything that can easily go wrong. And how, by just observing him, like any lolcow, to be honest, you can fix it. Any issues or problems or anything about DSP that you don't like or that you see in yourself, you can fix it. He can't. He's already given up. That's why he's a fucking loser. That's why he's a fucking quitter. Because instead of doing the things needed to fix his situation, he chose to let other people fix it for him, or he chose to just live with it, to deal with it. You don't have to do that. And most of you don't even have the luxury of doing that. And you should thank goodness for that shit. Life is meaningful because there's struggle. From the person with the least amount to the person who has the most. That's what gets one leg. You know what I'm saying? That's what puts one foot in front of the other and shit. If not, then what are you doing? DSP is literally trapped in a hell of his own making, and it's on the world stage. Even though, let's be honest about this, DSP is a niche within a niche within a niche. Let's be honest. That's why when DSP says that people make a living off of him, it's laughable. It's laughable. If you wanted to make a living off of a lolcow, there's a lot of lolcows you could do that off. But Wings is a much better person to go ahead and make a living off of. If you want to go off of just numbers, Wings is a much better choice. And the reason why is, for most people, Wings is way more relatable. It's funny to watch Wings go through what he goes through, but people can empathize with that. Even sympathize with it. They'll still laugh at him, but you know what I'm saying? They feel a stronger connection to him than DSP. DSP is a fucking oddity. And I've said it before, and I'll stand by it. DSP by far was a mistake. His father should have pulled out, or his mother should have swallowed. And I stand behind that. And I stand behind it. Because this waste of fucking jizz has proven that his life is a fucking waste. He did nothing with it. He had plenty of opportunities. He had plenty of advantages. What did he focus on? What other people had. And then tried his damnness to tear them down and elevate himself up. And in actuality, he ended up being lower than... He ended up finding himself in a lower position than where he started. Look at the shit with Chris G. You guys... You know what? I was going to save this for that, and I will. Well, if everything works out. You know what I'm saying? And if I have the energy to. We'll eventually get to that, but let's talk a little bit about that Chris G situation real quick. You want to know why DSP doesn't do Friday Night Fights anymore? Because he got fucking exposed. He got fucking exposed in that Chris G shit, and it was practice. DSP was literally a walking training dummy for Chris G, and it eats at his very soul. Because DSP likes to talk this bullshit about fundamentals and all of that, and his fundamentals were on full display. The lack thereof, I should say. He got owned. He got emasculated in the worst possible way. Let me give you let's call spade a spade. So, I'm not sure how many of you watched the original Chris G video, the one that's on his channel. Or even the stream. Most of you probably watched the Piece of Peace rendition of it, which is a good one. I need to actually watch it. I haven't watched it yet, but I have dropped that into a couple of FGC fucking discords, and they ate that shit up. And then come to find out, I wasn't even the first person to do it. So between Reddit and Discord, that shit got a lot of traction, and there was a lot of people, right, who've heard DSP talk about the nonsense about the FGC and all the problems with it, and why supposedly he's not there anymore because they were scared that he told the truth about GGPO and all that bullshit, which is completely out fucking dated. He has no idea what he's talking about. His argument, and I'm sure Agent Proper or Prop of the DIA will eventually talk about this, how, I was banned off of SRK because I told the truth about that, and really that wasn't even the case. Whatever. That wasn't even the case at all. He got kicked off because he was fucking being a jerk off and shit. But he had so many goddamn sock accounts. That's the shit that makes it fucking disgusting. Like, his life was SRK. He had so many goddamn sock accounts. And that's the reason why he was on Alpha-ism Radio all the goddamn time. Because Bumpkin was willing to let him on. He was just willing to let him on. DSP used to come home from work... excuse me, or he would drive home from work and would sit there and call in on that shit, and then when he got home, he'd get drunk and just talk shit. That's all he did. Like, he was so engulfed with the FGC and shit that he had nothing else. So when he got ran out of the FGC, YouTube just took the place of that. But he still, and he does to this very day, he still wants the respectability that comes from the FGC, and he can't get it. He can't get it, especially not now. Especially not now. When Chris G said it, because I actually watched the stream. When Chris G said what he said, I was already thinking it. I was already thinking that Chris was gonna say it. I just wasn't sure if he was or not. That when Chris G said that it seemed like DSP hadn't played Street Fighter in the last 14, 15 years or whatever the case may be, he wasn't lying. DSP has been stuck in this delusion about Super fucking Turbo, but yet he won't go on Fightcade and stand behind that shit. He just wants to keep playing ports on fucking PlayStation or Xbox because he's safe. You know what I mean? Like, he's still living in like 2005, 2007, 2008. Those times, that's dead. And that's been dead. And yet again, DSP is such a stagnant person that he never could give it up because it was the only thing that he had. It's the only thing that he can look back and say, hey, I actually did something. Which is sad. And not just sad in a pathetic sort of way. It's actually just kind of sad. That's all he has to his goddamn life. and talk about what he used to be on YouTube. Which is funny because doesn't DSP have a quote saying, "I'm all about looking forward than looking behind me. You guys need to get up out of the past and we need to go ahead and look forward to what the future has." Even though he perpetually lives in the future, or lives in the past, I should say. That's all he does, is reminisce about what he used to be, which all that was fraudulent. From his FGC days, which I think Jaha talked about that on that one podcast. And sorry, I can't think of the name right now. But that being said, I think is what it's called. Even up to the YouTube shit that people have talked about and dug up now. But his FGC stuff, which I'm waiting for a proper stream or he's doing a video on it, that's going to be the gold mine. That's what I really want to focus on, because a lot of what DSP did in the FGC was fraudulent or bullshit, or he just outright lied about it. And it's going to be funny to be able to bring that shit up and point and laugh at it. And that shit's going to hurt him because he still cares about it to this very day. But he's scared of getting exposed. That's why he's not going to go on Fightcade. Even if he got that $3,000 PC, he'd never go up there. He knows what's waiting for him. There's a channel on YouTube, I follow it, where all it is it might be one person, it could be two, but it's like one person who records matches on Fightcade with like well-known players, old school and new school guys. Those guys would murder him. They would murder DSP in that bitch. He wants no parts of it. He's too slow. His reflexes are gone, and DSP is just looking for the counter hit. He has no defense. He has none. He's always waiting for the counter hit. And that's why in Street Fighter 6, watch how quickly he gets blown the fuck up. Watch how quickly he gets blown the fuck up. He keeps crying about the whole drive system. I'm just going to call it that. And there are counters to all of that. But DSP don't know them. And by the time DSP figures it out, he's going to be too slow, and it won't matter. And he's going to run to all of the characters that he thinks are overpowered or really, really good, not thinking about any of the weaknesses, just thinking about their advantages, and he's going to get blown the fuck up. And it's going to be fantastic. And I don't know if he's going to play Street Fighter 6 the entire life of the game, but he needs to, especially coming off Street Fighter 5. Because it's very clear, ladies and gentlemen, and then I'll move on, that Street Fighter 6 is really just a combination of Street Fighter 3, 4, and 5. And if nothing else, Street Fighter 6 is what Street Fighter 5 should have been. And DSP hasn't been shit in any of those three games. And because he ain't missed all those years in Street Fighter 5 to his own deficit, he has no clue on not just the meta, because the meta don't really matter, but just how the game is actually, how people on a base level play the game. And then how to expand from there. DSP doesn't have any creativity. And that's what Street Fighter 6 is really, or Street Fighter 5 has really done. Yeah, there's a lot of flowcharty shit. There's flowcharty shit and everything, essentially. But people do fundamentally play the same character in Street Fighter 5, for example, differently. Like, you know what I'm saying? Some of the characters that Punk plays, there aren't other people who play his characters like that. Because if that was the case, they'd be able to beat him. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't work that way. There aren't a lot of Guiles who play, or there's not a lot of Guile players out there, I should say, that play like Knuckle-Duke. Knuckle-Duke. Or is it Knuckle-Duke? I think it's Knuckle-Dukes, to be honest. They don't play like him. There's not a lot of people who play like Snake Eyes. There's not a lot of people who play like a lot of other people who play similar characters. It's just not how it works. It's not as one-dimensional as DSP says. He says it that way because that's how he views it. It's easier for him to understand it if he believes everybody does it a certain type of way. But that's one of his largest deficits. That's why he's the closed-minded, sexist, racist, fucking piece of garbage that he is. Because he has to view the world a certain type of way, and he has to believe that there are people who look at the world the same way he does. Like, I had heard that there was one or two detractors or whatever who said that he's just bad at racial jokes. Right? He's not racist, he's just bad at racial jokes. Then what, a couple of days later, we get into the slave trade shit? Where's the punchline in that? Where is the bad humor in that? You gotta be a real piece of shit to sit there and say, yep, go ahead and scoop her up and get her ready for the slave trade. Hey, Phil, you know actually what they did to young girls like that in the slave trade? You know what they did before they even hit the auction block? Similar to what women who are the victim of current human trafficking have happened to them. But see, you won't speak on that, right? Because at least some of those people in the current day, they don't have the same type of pigment to their skin, so maybe we shouldn't speak on that. Maybe it's not that funny. Maybe it's easier to go ahead and hide behind the guides of a video game or bullshit edgy jokes and we can just be cool with it. Right? It's comfortable that way. And it's not really so comfortable to go ahead and call somebody what they are and just go ahead and make an excuse for them to make themselves feel better about it. Is that also what the guys are too? Is that the status quo? If that's what you're comfortable with, that's what you're comfortable with. You're only shortchanging yourself. Just like DSP is only shortchanged himself. And that's what I've tried, and I tell people this: do not give DSP the benefit of the doubt. Not unless you can prove it. Do not give him the benefit of the doubt. He will lie to you just as easily as he'll snort angrily at you. It's all he knows. DSP is where he's at because people have given him the benefit of the doubt. Because people felt sorry for him. It never gave him a reason to grow. It never gave him a reason to shape the fuck up and learn how to read a room. People just dealt with him. And that's the reason why he hates his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics now. Because they won't give him, well, not all of them anyway, they won't give him the pass. They won't just let him slide on some shit like, oh, I didn't know better. That's why he's so mad at John and Howard. Oh, you guys are supposed to be my friends. You guys, if I fuck up and do something, you're supposed to just go ahead and let me go on that. That's why he's mad at them. That's why he's going to stay mad at them. Because he's so used to letting him slide on other bullshit. Whether he knew he was doing something wrong or not. That's neither here nor there. Here we go.
Interview DSP. I have so many burning questions for him about Sons of Kojima, about just everything that's gone on. He wants a fair interview. I am all for that shit, DSP. I will give you a fair interview. I'll ask the hard questions, but they'll be fair. All right, everybody likes tough but fair questions, and I'll give you an opportunity to give your answers in full, uninterrupted. It will be very professional. I won't use mean words. I won't swear at you. We can stay away from topics that you think are too personal. I don't care about your relationships. I want to talk about the trolling and the internet legacy. So, Chet, if you get a chance.
Okay, let me cut it. So, you can't really. Okay, let me think about this for a minute. So he'll be fair but firm. I'm sure, like I said, there's a bunch of people that would. You know what I'm saying? Tevin would, Theo would, It's a Gundam would. There's a bunch of people that would. The thing is about the whole personal questions thing, right? Oh, I won't go into your actual personal life about how you've been fattening your wife up so she can't leave you, how you got your cat declawed and whatnot, and how you kind of treat him like shit, and you guys are just disgusting individuals. That's the reason why he has so many urinary tract infections. I won't talk about how you sat there and lied to your mother about your fucking 10-year plan when... And you guys already know what I'm about to say because I was the first one to say it. DSP's fucking 10-year plan is to wait and see if his parents die out so he can collect his inheritance, so he can clear his debts. And then once he clears his debts out and it's made available for him to refinance his home, to go ahead and do that. And just for the record, Phil, if you go ahead and get your home refinanced, you will lose that house. I guarantee it. Your spending habits prove it. Your spending habits prove it. And yet again, that's another thing that should be pointed out as well, is his dependency on credit cards is absurd and obscene. He doesn't want to, nor does he care to pay for anything outright. That's why the guy who does his taxes has to wait a whole fucking year to get his $1,200 so DSP can do his taxes again. Just imagine you having to pay someone $100 every month for 12 months and then end up owing them again for another 12 months. You just can't. You're too lazy, too stupid, or too incompetent to just pay that person off and start off with a clean slate. He needs to keep owing people in the same way that he needs to be constantly in distress. He needs to constantly be a victim. It has to be this way. It's one of the driving forces around him. That whole DSP positive bullshit, or I just need a break. Why can't people just be nice to me? Fuck all that. He needs negativity. He needs it in the same way that people need breathing. People need breathing. He needs it in the same way that people need air to breathe, is what I meant. He needs it. He needs to be in distress. He needs to be behind. He needs to be fucked over. Because it gives him something to bitch about. He's a negative piece of garbage. If he loved his wife so much, like he says he does, he'd have taken her on that honeymoon. If he loved and cared about Panda so goddamn much, he wouldn't have put her in a situation where she needed a fake engagement ring. This is all personal shit. Right? But if you don't want, and like I said, we want to stay away from the personal shit, alright, then I'll clap out at him on something else. Hey man, let's talk about how Curse dropped you because you weren't profitable. Oh no, that's not why they dropped me. They dropped me because of the trolls. No, they dropped you because you weren't profitable. Because if you were profitable, they would have dealt with some of that bullshit. They would have eaten some of that up. That's not what happened. They dropped you because you weren't profitable. You talked yourself out of that contract with Machinima, but you weren't profitable there either. Let's talk about why One-Up-Box dropped your ass. Because you weren't profitable. Let's talk about why Teespring dropped you. Because you weren't profitable. How does it feel to go through life trying to tell these people that you run a successful business, and in truth, you're just not profitable? How does that feel? Explain that to me. Let's talk about Be Awesome One, and how you got his docs, and you threatened to go across the pond to go ahead and beat him up. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Viscant, and how you sit there and you threatened him on the internet, and you wanted to fight with him. And matter of fact, you demanded a contract to be drawn up that if one of you were killed in this altercation, that the other person wouldn't be held legally liable. How about we talk about that situation for a minute? Let's talk about how Jaha and fucking oh my god. What's your name? It'll come to me. But let's talk about how Jaha and another dude went ahead and ran up on your ass in a fucking parking lot, and you had to admit that you're a fucking alcoholic so they wouldn't beat you up. Like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the other altercation and shit when you were fucking hiding out in a bathroom or in a corner or something while someone else had to defend you. Let's talk about that situation. Let's talk about how you almost fucked up ECC one year, right? The same ECC that you said you ran so well and everybody gave you fucking credit for. Let's talk about how you almost screwed that tournament over because you were talking shit about the Guilty Gear community and, if I remember correctly, the Tekken community. And they were going to run opposition at another tournament to fuck over ECC that year. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you got drunk that one night and got riled up and talked all that shit to Bumpkin on Alphaism Radio and shit. And he called you out about you supposedly being this alpha expert or whatnot, and you were this anniversary edition expert or whatever, and then you got cleaned up by Taquito. And you tried to make Taquito sound like a scrub, but then you went ahead and said that, oh, well, he beat all these other people too of prominence or well-known players. Then he wasn't a scrub then, was he? Let's talk about that. That's not personal. That's all on the internet. That's all stuff that can be easily found. Let's talk about that shit. Let's talk about how you sat there and fucking took cash advances against your credit cards to go to tournaments multiple years and then lose those tournaments and got fucked over. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your rainy day fund or your definition of a rainy day fund. Let's talk about that. Explain that to me. You want some more? I can do it. You know what I'm saying? I Xyzel's mother. I can go all night. Want me to keep? Okay, let's keep going. Let's go ahead and talk about if you will, if you'll permit that. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit as it pertains to your history with Metokur, actually. And if it wasn't for Metokur, there would be no Brightside Viking. Do any of you guys know that lore? Some of you guys might, but some of you guys might not, or you might not remember. If it wasn't for Metokur or Brightside Bob, there would be no Brightside Viking. Because Vidal found DSP through Brightside Bob. And initially, was trolling DSP like everybody else was. And then, it seems, he developed troll remorse, I think is what they call it, and started giving DSP money. And then, DSP, let's talk about how you backstabbed Brightside Viking, thinking that Twitch was going to remove you if you didn't, and you gave him the Blood Eagle treatment, and you ended up getting him banned off Twitch. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what led up to that. Let's talk about Blood for the Blood Gods. When Brightside Viking went to war with Kiwi Farms on your behalf during the Escort Saga, late 2017, early 2018. Let's talk about that shit. Let's talk about how Brightside Viking went over there and threatened some guys. He threatened somebody's wife and kids, which led to them saying, hey, you're going to go ahead and basically denounce this dude right now and you know, publicly, or one person from your website will be doxxed every day until you do. Talk about how you told people on your fucking website that your website, kingofhate.com, was not compromised. There are no problems. They're just bullshitters. Chill. And then once people started getting fucked over, people started running to you guys and saying, I want my account to be erased. I want it to be erased right fucking now. Right fucking now. And you said, and you and Brightside, and there was probably one other person who were like, there's nothing, dude, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing going on. Chill out. And then I don't know how many people end up, you know, getting exposed before you finally ended up screwing Brightside Viking over. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you deleted all those fucking videos on your YouTube channel and shit, and you said that Machinima and YouTube told you to do it. Well, where's the emails proving that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you sent people on PlayStation to go after a guy because he didn't even call you out per se. He asked you a question about the stream you had where Panda was flipping out, and you put everything in the sub-only mode to shut everything down. And then you purposely sent people to spam that man on PlayStation or on PSN so he couldn't use his fucking PlayStation account. Because he had to go through all those fucking messages to get it done. Let's talk about that shit. That's targeted harassment. Let's speak on that for a minute. Let's go ahead and speak on how when Panda... Let's get personal again. Let's talk about when Panda got sick and you had to wake her up and whatnot to go ahead and make you dinner despite the fact that that chick was sick. Let's talk about how you had sat there and ripped Panda away from her whole fucking family, moved her all the way across country, and left her essentially stranded. Her only lifeline was you, essentially. I'm sure her parents would have came and got her, but you knew what you did when you brought her out there. Let's talk about that for a minute. Like, where else do you want me to go with this? And this is just what I can think of at the moment. If I had some real time, I could think of a whole lot more. So just imagine what someone like Tevin could do. Just imagine to what some of these detractors, trolls, haters, and critics that are on the come up could come up with. Think about the debunking list that you took from Dragon Killer on Twitter. I can only imagine what detractor Twitter could come up with. So the thing is the point that I'm trying to make is DSP doesn't need to worry about the personal shit. There is plenty of shit that he's done on YouTube and on Twitch to hit him for. Plenty. And how's he going to explain that away? That's not personal. That's business. Right? How's he going to explain those things away?
Email DSP. I want you to tell him. Jim wants to interview you. Jim wants to sit down. He wants to sit down and interview you, DSP, and get your side of the story. All right, because I got to admit, you know, you've done a lot of goofy shit, Phil, but you've outlived so much stuff. All your haters have fallen by the wayside. You are the detractor destroyer, Phil. And we all have to respect that on some level. Sure, you may have spent $100,000 bajillion on wrestling phone games. And you had a very, public bankruptcy and all of that. And yet, you're still standing. Still collecting those super berries. Still got a show, still got an audience. I mean, the sons of Kojima, they're not around. They built a water well and disappeared. But you are, Phil. I want that interview. I want to sit down and talk that talk. That's right, Chad. He felted the haters.
Okay. Here's the point, though, of this, of what Metokur is not trying to, but what he's presenting. He's presenting DSP an opportunity to not only get his side out for whatever the fuck that's worth, but for it to be entertaining. Now, I personally think that no one should have to concede to any type of demands that DSP may or may not have. But clearly, people are trying to go for the entertainment value of it. And Metokur knows enough about him, especially early on, that it could be entertaining. Is it going to turn DSP's life around? Is it going to turn his internet career around? Is it going to mean anything to anybody outside of the, next month or so, and then that's it? No, it's not. It's really not. It's going to be a very funny event for a few weeks, if even a month maybe. And then that's it. DSP is not going to see anything else off of it, and Metokur essentially gets to come full circle, which is what's really meaningful, Phil, about all this. Because in some ways, Metokur made you, as it pertains to being detractor feed, if you will, or being detractor material. As could be said for a lot of people that Metokur has joked about on the internet. So there is some value to it from that standpoint. But DSP needs to take a hit. And he doesn't want to do that. He can't do it, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? His ego's too goddamn fragile. And he's never going to get anything. And in truth, it sounds like DSP knows he's wasting his time with the interview concept in general. I'm not saying with any particular person. It just in general, he knows it's a waste of time. It's not going to change anything. And it's not. What are you going to do? You're going to go up there and say that you're some fucking broken down old man who never saved any money, who doesn't have a nest egg, who owes money on everything that he fucking has and shit, and can't figure out how to do the most basic shit. How the fuck am I supposed to take you seriously about a video game when, bitch, you can't even budget? You're failing at the game of life. Why the fuck should I take your opinion on an actual game? When the game that you're playing every day you're failing at. What sense does that make? Metokur can't fix that. He can joke about it. You know what I'm saying? He can give you a chance to prove that you're not the complete and total loser that you make yourself out to be. If DSP really wants to prove that he's grown, quote unquote, as a person, this is the type of opportunity he has to do it. But he won't, because he doesn't see the value in it. Or he doesn't understand what's being presented to him. And that's really what it comes down to. He doesn't understand the opportunity that's been given to him. You know what I'm saying? Metokur is getting to this point where, sadly, I think they're saying that he's trying to hold out till the end of the year. We don't know what 2023 looks like for Metokur. He doesn't really know. It sounds kind of bleak. Very bleak, actually. Tomorrow's not guaranteed, so you have an opportunity to face down one of believe it or not, one of the more respected content creators as it pertains to internet oddities. You have an opportunity to do that, and you're going to piss that away because of ego and your lack of understanding, because you're too stupid to just say, I don't necessarily understand what's being presented to me. Could you please explain it to me? If you want me to give you another example or another way of hitting DSP that's not completely personal, I can help you with that. When Machinima came to DSP and said, hey, they had called a meeting with him over the phone, and they were like, hey, we want to know what your plans are for your channel and what direction are you trying to go. DSP was sitting here and like, my channel is red hot right now. Why would I change up anything? I'm doing great where I'm at. And the guys was like, well, yeah, but what are your future plans though? What other things are you interested in doing? And DSP sounded like a deer in fucking headlights. and someone was like, well, you go over Street Fighter, right? Like fighting game stuff or whatever. Would you be interested in doing commentating or something like that? Oh, well, yeah, I guess I could. I have an experience and background in it. Someone had to feed him an idea because he didn't have one of his own. Someone had to feed him that. They had to spoon feed him that idea. And he still wasn't receptive to the idea. And the guys were like, we wasted our time. All right, we'll just let him go. Let him go back to his channel because that's all he's really thinking about and all he cares about. Maybe in a couple months he'll grow up or he'll expand and grow as a content creator and maybe even as a person, and we can present that idea to him then. And they never did because they found other people who did have an idea of what they wanted. You only cared about what was in your grummy little hooves because that's all you ever care about. What's directly in front of you that you think you can hold on to. But when that's gone, then he gets desperate and is like, excuse me, and has to make excuses for why he failed. Whereas everybody else uses this shit as a platform to propel them to something else in some type of way, shape, or form. DSP has never been able to do that. So how the fuck am I supposed to believe that he has a business degree, right? Or that if the helicopter company didn't let his dumb ass go, that he would have been able to grow within the company if it wasn't for daddy's fucking nepotism? How am I supposed to believe he can do any of that when he can't even successfully run a YouTube channel? Oh, because he's still fucking here? Who gives a fuck? I'm sorry, not sorry, that he chose to stake his existence on YouTube. That doesn't make him successful. And that's nothing to even brag about. Oh, I'm still here and that makes me successful. If that's what your definition of success is, it just shows you how much of a failure you really are. That's what that really means. That's what that really shows. And the fact that you can't see that, or you choose not to see it, is a very telling thing about you. That's what that is. That's a telling thing about you. Not every detractor or detractor, troll, hater, or critic who does this is going to make a name for themselves or make an impact, if you will. Right? It's not going to happen for everybody. There's nothing guaranteed about that at all. But you can't tell the DSP story, if you will, without talking about Metokur or Jim or Brightside Bob or whatever. You can't tell that story without him. You can't. There are certain people, excuse me, that you can't write out of DSP history. You can't write Tevin out. You can't write SOK out. You can't write out Secret Life, and that's a rabbit hole in itself. There's a lot of people that you just can't write out. And you can't, and Metokur is right at the top of that heap. Even before your favorite detractor, he's before them. And that's one of the reasons why I think also DSP is not interested in doing the interview. Because he doesn't like the idea that his name is tied to somebody else. But that's all this detractor shit is. He says that, oh, you guys are just riding his coattails or whatever the case may be. In actuality, he's riding your coattails. Because, as I've said, DSP needs you more than you need him. At least some of you, anyway. That's what it really comes down to. If DSP doesn't have the interest, he's fucked. If DSP doesn't have the negativity, he's fucked. If DSP does not have someone that he can point to and say, they're screwing with me, give me money, he's broke. I just heard, because I've actually taken a break in between this. If I never told you, you wouldn't know. But that he said that he wants people to give him a year. That's nothing new either. DSP has said before, give me a couple weeks. Oh, give me a couple months. Oh, give me 6 months. Now he's asking for a year. He's asking for a year for detractors to not speak on him. So no detracting 2023, I guess, essentially. An extended period of no nut November, which is something that him, Rich, and Wings are not gonna have a problem with. Excuse me. He wants that. What's going to happen in a fucking year? You've conditioned those people, and I use the term people loosely, you conditioned those people over there to stick it to the haters, to stick it to the trolls. That's the base, that's the main basis these people give you money. Because they think by giving you money, they're fighting this entity that's bigger than they are. Which is weird, because when them guys have to debrief, for whatever reason, they're the first ones on their hands and knees looking to suck some detractor dick so they can be taken in. And with that being said, maybe some of these guys need to get fucking screened a little bit better. But that's just an opinion. So it's really, really weird that they're supposedly fighting for the cause, but then once they fuck up and they're expelled, at least for a temporary amount of time, they're so quick to come over here and then spill it. Which is another thing, too, that I'd like to point out. Is it Snorlax King was the most recent individual who broke ranks? Whatever the case may be on that. Supposedly, the story was based off an honest mistake, and it ended up snowballing into a lot. If I get a chance, I'll speak on that. Excuse me. But why isn't it that when some of these people are debriefing, that some of you detractors, trolls, haters, and critics out here are not asking for emails? Now, I'm not saying they should divulge emails that have their real names in it, or they've got their driver's licenses or IDs in, because DSP is a fucking paranoid fucking idiot. He needs everybody's identification or whatnot. I'm not talking about that. Anything that would have personal information or whatever. I'm not speaking on that. But I'm saying that, hey, if someone breaks rank tomorrow, let's say Swaggins, or for whatever, okay, man, I'm tired of DSP. I'm done with him now. I've seen that I fucked up. I'm literally saying something verbatim that another troll has said to the detractor community at one time or another. Why don't people say, okay, we need you to drop your emails to us? Any type of email correspondence that you've ever had with DSP asking you for money or support or where have you been for a while or whatever that doesn't have any personal information in that you don't give a fuck about, you need to drop that. You should drop that shit. Just so we can see what's what. And if you don't want to drop it to the community as a whole, you can pick a trusted person and go ahead and do that shit. I'm really surprised no one ever does that. Because, keep in mind, most of these emails are all copy and paste anyway, as it pertains to how DSP interacts and the type of cult-like control that he has over these people. But I'm really surprised that no one ever said that. Matter of fact, did anybody ask Anonymous any of that while he was around? I'm going to say probably not, being that, given what was found out about Anonymous later. But why hasn't anybody really ever considered that? Hey, do you have an email where DSP kind of came across kind of weird to you, where he asked you where have you been, or, hey, are you going to be at this playthrough, or hey, he's hard up for money behind the scenes or something like that? Because I guarantee you, every one of those pay pigs over there, and probably the whales too, have an email like that. Or they have some type of level of correspondence like that. Now, I'm not someone who says you should drop emails or DMs and shit. But DSP is not a respectable person. He's doxed these people amongst their own. So who gives a shit if he drops an email then or two? Like I said, don't send anything that has your personal information in it. That's just don't do that. That's not needed. But if you have a fucking email from DSP where he says that, hey, I'm a bit hard up and this playthrough's coming through, can you help me out? That's something that needs to be seen. I think that's something that people would be interested in. I'm just surprised no one ever asked about that. That's all I'm saying. I'm surprised no one asked about that in that Only Iced Coffee interview that Proper did either. Or maybe Proper the other dude may have done it. Maybe they might have mentioned it, and I might have. I don't know. It's been a while since I've listened to it. I'll re-listen to it just in case. But I'm just surprised something like that hasn't happened. I'm really, really shocked. Because if these guys are going to really break ranks and really see the error of their ways when it comes to this pignosis, and especially if they're coming to you, why not have these guys debrief and lay their cards out on the table? If they're really broken out of the pignosis, then it gives them a reason not to go back. Supposedly, Brightside Viking is giving money to DSP under a different name. I'm not surprised by that. He's been there for a really long time. it's a habit. It's something that they've been doing for a very, very long time, and they don't know how to break it. No surprise there. It's just something to think about.
So if we can make that happen, that would be great. I would love to to end the year. How fun would it be if on the Year of the Chud, the very last stream, the December stream for Year of the Chud, if that very last stream was the DSP interview, where we get down to talk about the real issues. That would be, I think, the absolute perfect capstone on the craziness that this entire year has been. We would have started with Jack Murphy, worked our way through all the craziness with America First and Ethan Ralph, got up to Wings and Acerthorn, and then finally closed it out by getting Phil to open up and answer questions and talk about all the things that he wants to talk about. So I'm throwing my hat in that ring. And if you know anything about me, I've got plenty of hats, which, by the way, are on sale right now on the Metokur Self-Fi store. Link in the description. Don't forget the Halloween merchandise as well. Get yourself an attractive Boo shirt or a coffee mug. So I'm willing to throw that hat into the ring. We'll see if it works, Chad. I want to close December out with that interview. That's what my goal is. We'll see if it works or not. I don't know if it will. It's a very true and honest statement from me. And I'll give it a shot. My cancer-riddled ass can stick around for 2 more months to get this interview, and then we'll close that internet legacy out. Mine, not Phil's. He'll be around for another 20 decades. We'll close mine out with that DSP interview. I think that's perfect. What a fairy tale ending that would be. Will it work? I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, you guys know.
Okay, so that was Metokur's proposal. I've been notified by my assistant that we've gone kind of long on this. So do I want to actually take a break and come back to the second part or not? You guys really won't know either which way, but we're gonna go ahead and go right into it though. So I'm gonna ask them to just keep this as one video. So we're gonna go into DSP's response, and we'll see what's what. The Metokur proposal was on October 30th. This is on November 1st. From an entertainment standpoint, from someone who understands, given the era that DSP started from and whatnot, and Metokur is a very, very good choice. Like I said, there are a lot of great options out there. But in truth, it'll be much more profitable for those same individuals to react to the DSP interview than actually conduct it. It's just not worthwhile. It really isn't. I promise you it's not. I promise you it's not. Now, granted, I'm sure there will be a talented individual who, if they're lucky enough to get the interview, that they'll do it, and I'm sure it'll be presented well, whatever the case may be. But it won't be as impactful as someone who had been around back then, who has observed DSP's bullshit, and who has, at one time or another, even fought to defend DSP. When Metokur brought up the whole catfishing video where he helped dispel some of the issues or whatever, Metokur didn't have to let that happen. If I remember correctly, almost word for word, Metokur I don't remember seeing it on Twitter at that time, but there was so much shit going on during the Escorts Live. So much shit. Oh, such fun times. Anywho, there was so much stuff going on at the time that I personally don't remember that image macro, but it's all there. Or macro. But it was all there. Like, he essentially laid out who, something Capri, and like her whole situation and how that whole shit formulated and everything like that. It was wild. It was fucking crazy wild how all that played out. And how he broke all that down like a month before. How he rolled with the shit show just to see how entertaining it was going to end up being before he decided to drop the video. Just funny stuff. I'm not saying that DSP owes Metokur or the Kiwi Farms or anything for that, because truth be told, at one time or another, DSP owes someone for something. There have been plenty of detractors out there who have dispelled certain shit that was going on around DSP or put stuff into context to actually let you know what was really going on or not. That can be proven. Kiwi Farms has come through and dispelled certain stuff that they felt that was being put out there that wasn't completely and totally correct, and set the record straight on that. There's a lot of people who have gone to bat for DSP at times where they feel that it should have. But it doesn't mean that these people have to play Captain Save-A-Ho all day, every day. It doesn't work that way. DSP is that sloppy, expired piece of fucking pork for a reason. After a while, you get tired of helping people who are not willing to help themselves. And that right there is the envelopment of DSP's entire being. That's why people don't like the whole moral argument that, I'm such and such better than DSP or whatever. Because the standards are really fucking low. You know what I mean? Like, the standards are really fucking low. That's the first thing. But secondly, DSP's not trying to try. If that makes sense. Let me repeat that. DSP is not trying to try. He wants to be carried. Like, even now with this whole interview thing, you got to reach out to me. You have to do this. You have to do that. If you were someone looking to really get your story out there and really set the record straight, you should be looking to talk to as many people as you possibly can. He's not doing that. DSP is treating this essentially like a job application. He's essentially screening applicants and going for and trying to set up interviews with people to see who's going to be the best candidate for him. Here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. What does that candidate get in return? What does that prospect get out of this particular deal? Let's not lie to each other or anybody else and say, it's the dubious honor of being to interview Darksydephil. That situation has come and gone. What most people really want is to have a discussion with him, not an interview. Interviewing DSP doesn't mean shit. Confronting him on his nonsense has way more value to it. And if you're going to do that, then you're trying to have a discussion. Let's not hide under the aspects of an interview or the guise of an interview. Let's just be honest with each other about that. And DSP's not going to have that. He's not going to get it. I don't know who's gonna get the interview if anybody does. But whoever it does end up doing it, you're going to give up way more than what you're going to get out of it. And it'll more than likely, as people have stated, or I'm sure people have stated, it'll probably be something similar to the quartering. He's not going to want it live. He's going to want it all pre-recorded. He's going to want to be pre-recorded on a day that he's comfortable with. He's going to want you to probably send him the raw file so he can put timestamps in on stuff he wants to get cut out or whatever the case may be. It's not worth the time. And then if he's not going to have you go under all that bullshit, right, then he's going to want, if it is done live, he doesn't want the chat involved. He doesn't want you to have super chats or any of that bullshit. Why should you concede to any of that? It's your platform, not him. And the toll needs to be paid. And DSP can't afford to pay you. So why do you have to give up the opportunity to ask the questions that you want to ask, or to profit in some way, shape, or form from questions, which can be held to the end, similar to how Nick Ricada does, except for $20 and up super chats or whatever, or at least how he used to do it anyway. Why do you have to give these things up to accommodate him? He's not even a draw. Let's be honest with each other. He's not even a draw. Getting an interview from him during the Escort saga was probably about as good as it was going to get. Bankruptcy, it didn't take long for him to get exposed there. And now, what is the biggest punch that people have on DSP right now? The fucking WWE champions, which he's been already caught dead to rights. How much more confirmation do you want and or need? And it doesn't even matter. He's going to run from that question anyway. So who gives a shit? He's already been caught. Even though, in truth, and I told this to I told this to Agent Proper. Actually, I think I said it on the stream. I think DSP purposely set that up with the phone where it was when Jasper was on the chair, because why not hide your addiction in plain sight? Why not just put it out there, and if they catch it, so what? It didn't change many of the people in his audience. Yeah, I'm sure a few people broke ranks, but so what? And it didn't change anything with the detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, because they essentially had all the evidence anyway. The bankruptcy, if anything else, kind of confirmed all that. And then when the bank leaks came out, confirmed all that. That's why you had BT 9494 and TJ Gamebox. They've already locked him. They were part of the larger scope that locked him up on that. So what more can you ask him as it pertains to that? What more do you really expect to get out of that? There's so much other stuff that you can jab him with. That you can catch him with body blows with. You can catch him with strong crosses. You can catch him with uppercuts. There's so many things you can hit him with. You don't have to hit him with these, one and done punches and shit. There's so much more that he can be hit on. Force him put him in a position where he has no choice but to take that, to take that hit. You know what I mean? Because he's scared of all the other things that you could throw at him. Make it seem like that's his only way out, instead of trying to lead with that, if that makes sense. I don't know, just something to think about. Alright, let's get started.
As you guys know, I am seeking to get an interview on the internet by someone prominent and someone with an audience to get my word out about my side of the story when it comes to all the very slanderous and negative things said about me on the internet on a daily basis. Okay, so I'm still fielding offers. I still have some offers coming in, but I'm talking with several people as well. At this point, I'm very busy with all these releases, so I probably can't do it right now anyway, but
And in truth, let me throw this out there. Besides Nick Rekieta, who was a prominent choice, and PewDiePie would have probably been his best choice if he wasn't an asshole over the years, to be honest. His only real choice that I can think of, if he really wanted an interview, would be Frederick of Down the Rabbit Hole. That's the only person I can really think of that DSP could go to get an interview done, and get it done kind of sort of in his way. Let me walk with me for a minute, because I need another hit of SnortBucks anyway. Big up to Chia. And let's walk to the local SnortBucks for just a second and whatnot. I'm paying, so you might as well just go ahead and take the walk with me real fast, and open your mind to me for a second. So if you guys remember, leading up to the Down the Rabbit Hole reaction, DSP was in some type of consistent correspondence with Frederick, and it sounded like he was trying to convince Frederick to go ahead and do another Down the Rabbit Hole that gives DSP's side of the story, almost like a 2.0 or a part 2 or whatever. And Frederick didn't go for it because, one, he saw how he was going to be used, and in truth be misused, to be honest with you, because we're all... This is going to sound bad, but I don't mean it in such. Everybody uses everybody, right? It's give or take, I should say. But I'm going to be blunt with you and say everybody uses everybody, but it's give or take. That's just how life is. And that's what people do. But no one is out to be misused. You know what I'm saying? When someone does something for you, you're thankful. You make sure that you express how thankful you are for it, and you make sure that whatever it is that you're presenting in the best possible way, so that person knows that their time or their money or whatever the case may be was not wasted. Okay. DSP doesn't understand that. DSP misuses people because he feels that he's been underappreciated over the years, right? And so with Frederick, he can sit there and he can try to suck him off and say all this bullshit about how he appreciates his documentary style and all this, that, and the third, but in actuality, he's scared of him because he's scared of Frederick's influence and his reach. And the whole reason why he even did the react to the Down the Rabbit Hole is because he was trying to tether DSP Gaming on the back of that Down the Rabbit Hole video. So hopefully when people look up that video and search, his videos will come up there too. If he had left it as one giant video, it may have actually worked that way. Instead, DSP's stupid and greedy, right? And greed is his creed, and he ended up getting into where he's at now, where that's just damn near non-existent, where you can find detractors reacting to it long before you even find his. So you have that. But my point being is that he tried, and I think he still is, he's trying very hard to see if he can get Frederick to either give him the part 2, and or to do the interview with him. And one of the reasons why I think that, amongst many, is because Frederick did an interview with Wings. And how successful it is, I don't remember, but I remember. I'm sure I've listened to it while doing something else in the background. And DSP wants that, because if Wings was able to obtain it, then why can't DSP? And I'm pretty confident, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty confident they did do an interview talking to each other. Because I think around that time, Wings talked to Review Tech USA too. I think that was their first time, because the second time went really, really bad, because Rich had a female correspondent up there, a friend of his, I should say. He had a female friend up there, and when they started getting into, I think it was age of consent or something, she, as she should, got it completely despondent about that shit, and any type of defense that Wings was trying to throw up immediately got shot the fuck down, and then Wings wanted to run. And not yet again, she had a right to feel that way, as everybody should feel that way, but Rich played that wrong. He played that wrong. And that interview went left fast because he didn't handle his questioning on that right. He could have gotten so much more than just shock value. But then again, Review Tech USA is just a blunt instrument anyway. So he's gonna, you know what I'm saying? You get what you get. You know what I'm saying? You play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. So there's that. He completely botched that. There was so much more Rich could have gotten out of Wings if he had played that question differently, or had her present the question with that guy from Mars, or that gamer from Mars, because I think he was on there too. If he had someone else present that question instead of himself, that they could have gotten so much more out of it as it pertains to his frame of mind and everything. But yet again, you get what you get. So that's unfortunate. But I think that's what he wants. I think he really wants Frederick. I think for whatever reason, he's had enough correspondence with Frederick that he feels safe. And DSP has hinted, if he's not outright said, that he's had a lot of correspondence with Nick Rekieta. So he probably feels comfortable with that too. Because to be honest with you, the size of a channel or the amount of views that a video gets is kind of incidental at times to the amount of influence that a person actually has. I don't know if DSP actually could think very deeply on that or would even understand where I'm coming from, but if he could, for even the briefest of a moment, he would kind of understand where I'm talking about. So there's that. Because at the end of the day, DSP is not going to expect 100,000 fucking people to see things the way he wants it to be seen. He's looking for the vulnerable individuals that are in those viewer bases or fan bases to really come over there to him and give him a chance. That's what he's looking for. He's fishing for vulnerable, weak individuals that may be sympathetic to him, whether in the short term or the long term. And if nothing else, and I've said this for quite a while, he's looking for the whole point of this is to get new blood. He's trying to replenish the ranks, and he's been fishing for another Brightside Viking for a very, very long time, and he hasn't got it. He probably is not going to. And even if Brightside Viking's really over there still, throwing a little bit of money here or there, it's not the same the way it was. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not at the same velocity, it's not the same amount of money, and it's not just as it pertains to the Brightside Viking story, because you can't talk about DSP without talking about Brightside Viking because of all the shit that he did for him. Like, that was DSP's sergeant at arms. He was also a confidant to DSP. He did a lot of dirt. Like, Brightside Viking knows where the bodies are, is what I'm trying to say. He knows where the bodies, the quote unquote bodies. He knows where they're buried at. You know what I'm saying? Why do you think fucking Swaggins wanted to try to take Brightside Vikings' place so badly for so long and failed miserably? You know what I mean? And you could say the same thing with Only Iced Coffee. Same concept. He's still chasing after Brightside Viking, and they'll never get there. They'll never get there. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. But that's my initial thoughts. My thoughts are he's looking at Frederick. He's looking at Frederick, but he wants. I bet you if that conversation is even happening, I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, but I'm confident that's who he's gunning for. There's something that Frederick isn't conceding on that DSP is holding out for, or Frederick hasn't reached out to him, or reached back out to him. One of the two. But then again, it could be many things. But I think that's what the situation is. It's either Nick Rekieta, or who he wants, I should say. He either wants Nick Rekieta or he wants Frederick. And I don't see that benefiting either man, to be honest with you. Because DSP doesn't have a sense of humor, nor does he have any real sensibilities. So that's not really appealing to either one of those gentlemen, to be honest with you. And why would Frederick, and one more thing and I'll move on. As it pertains to a part 2 to Down the Rabbit Hole Darksydephil, the amount of negative bullshit that you leave off on in that video leading up to now is gargantuous. It's not even. It's even if Frederick could condense it down to to 90 minutes, there is so much shit there that if I was DSP, I wouldn't want that out there. I certainly would not want it out there. Remember, the first Down the Rabbit Hole ends with DSP and Panda breaking up. And then you have everything else. So he literally has to pick up from, I do not want you to take that bitch to the hospital. Matter of fact, I think he's wearing the same shirt right now that he was wearing in that emergency video. I'm not giving you permission to take her to the hospital. No, why can't you just give her a pill and leave her somewhere? Frederick has to start there and then move forward. Do you really think Frederick wants to go through that? I wouldn't if I didn't have to. Just something to think about. Just something to think about.
I'm interested in, this is, I'll get back to you, this is, I'm interested in doing it with you or whatever. And I've got a few candidates right now. Well, all of a sudden, in the last 2 days, all right, I started getting emails. I started getting people super chatting in my chat saying, Phil, you should do your interview with Mr. Metokur or Metokur. All right. Now, I don't know who this guy is. All I know is the name rings a bell because people used to tell me years ago he was an asshole to me. He was a real scumbag, really being nasty to me. He was basically being like a detractor. All right. Now, not that he particularly focused only on me, but apparently I was one of the running meme things that he did in his content and shows. And basically, he was really nasty. All right. Now, I haven't heard from this guy in a million years. I don't know anything about him, and I don't listen to his content, but I haven't heard about this guy in a long time. All of a sudden, in the last 24 to 48 hours, I get tons of people who are either emailing me about it or who are like actually super chatting on the stream saying things like, oh, you should do your interview with him. He's really interested. He's really interested in interviewing you, right? Now, my answer has been very simple. If he's interested in interviewing me, he should contact me. He hasn't. If he wants to interview me, reach out, email me, or DM me on Twitter if he can, because I don't know anything about the guy. Maybe I banned him years ago if he was a scumbag to me. Reach out, contact me, let me know you're interested. Let's talk it out, right? That hasn't happened. It's been probably over 48 hours since people started telling me this guy supposedly is interested in emailing or interviewing me. Nothing. No contact, nothing, all right? So, as you know, that's it. That's where I leave it. If I ever hear from the guy, then maybe I'll consider it. So, I received a detailed message overnight from someone. I'm not going to give their name. I'm not going to give details about it. I'm just going to read you what the message says, all right? I'm just going to read you the message. That's it, all right? You ready for this? Here we go. There's a guy named Mr. Metokur. He's also known as Jim. He was also known as Brightside Bob in the past. I didn't even know that. I knew that there were people who were like Brightside Bill, Brightside Bob, and they all made fun of me back in the day. But I didn't know that this particular guy was one of them. Apparently, he was one of the bigger ones. Okay? He said on one of his streams that he wants to interview you about your trolls, your online legacy, and drama. His gimmick is that he puts the spotlight on lolcows, and then his audience, like people on Kiwi Farms, 4chan, and 8chan, destroy those people. He's done it to countless people, even to the point of suicide with Randy Greer. Now, keep in mind, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm not confirming or denying this is real. I'm just reading a message from someone who sent me a message overnight. Don't take this as me saying this is true. I know nothing about the situation. I don't know who this person is or anything. Okay? This is what
now, real quick. So, just like he did with the Kiwi Farms thing, spreading that around about how all these 3 or 4 people got killed because of the farms, and he spread it around and whatnot, even though when he says people have misinformation on him, and they could just take 5 minutes to find out what's truthful and what's not, but they don't, and so it just keeps getting propagated, he does the exact same thing. And it's funny how in the beginning of this, he's saying, oh, well, you know, he could just reach out to me by email and then we'll see what's what. But then right now, he's slowly but surely trying to instill in his audience, I can't do that because this person's dangerous. Hence the reason why now he's like, oh, he's kind of like backpedaling a little bit, saying, hey, I don't know if this is true or not. I'm not sure what the situation is. This is just what the email says, and that's that, and I don't get it, yada, 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 yada. Now, the funny thing is, when someone tries to say something positive to DSP, he's immediately dismissive. He doesn't want to believe it. You're just trying to get his hopes up, yada, yada, yada. But if it's something negative, especially about somebody else, especially if it's about someone else who may or may not have done something to him or slighted him or whatever the case may be, he'll believe that shit hook, line, and sinker. Hence the reason why you'll eventually end up finding out what the repercussions of this whole situation is later, where he's not going to do the interview because he believes exactly what this person says almost wholeheartedly. Almost. So he went ahead and talked around in a goddamn circle for no fucking reason, with no real purpose, just so he could say no, and hopefully no one comes after him, basically. And if you're that scared of the internet, especially as deep as he is, as DSP is, in the internet, then why the fuck are you even doing an interview? Why are you even talking to anybody? Go back to your fucking island and shut the fuck up and yell and scream about a bunch of shit that you don't know about while having to ask these same people who are mentally and physically disabled, right, or these people that are on disability or whatever the case may be for their disability checks, despite the fact that as the economy's going, things aren't getting exactly easier and shit, and people are starting to feel it all around. But you have more than what they have, and yet you demand so much of them. Go back to doing that then. Because that right there is a personal question that any interviewer has the right to ask. How are you going to sit there and ask people to give you money in the type of environment that we're in right now when you have more than they do? How do you feel about that? How do you feel that maybe some of those people should save some of those disability checks or some of the money in them, just in case shit gets worse? How do you know that people aren't going without stuff like, for example, transportation as it pertains in Jax's situation? Because they're giving money to you. How do you feel that you have one guy who was on, bankruptcy number 3, possibly number 4, because for whatever fucking reason he feels a need to give you money? Now, granted, let's use some common sense here for a second. Those people made the choice to do so, but yet you keep accepting money from these people. You're the one who keeps putting the sad story on and shit. No one else is giving you money outside of this small demographic of people and whatnot. So you do have an understanding of what the situation is and what's going on. Are you poor? Are you destitute? If not, then what's the problem? Let's see if he'll answer that.
Whole. Okay? Let's continue. He has to always delete his YouTube stream afterward because of the multiple severe terms of service violations on every stream that he has, and extremely racist chat that spams the N-word.
Take a sip, bitch. Now, since you're talking about that, What about when you were on Twitch back in 2017, 2018, 2019, and there was all kinds of despicable bullshit that was being said in your Twitch chat, and you'd look over, see it, and you immediately turned your fucking head like you never saw nothing? How about that? Are you going to talk about that situation? Are you going to talk about how your mods were participating in some of that same bullshit as well? And that's why it was able to go on? Are you going to talk about how Xyzern was sitting there asking people to kill Tevin and shit? Or he was willing to put a hit out on Tevin, I should say, with his winnings from Vegas? And how he talked about North American apes all the time and shit? And how he just really Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started for the love that I have for Milf and Cookies. Do not get me started on that. Like, are you going to talk about some of that nonsense? You're going to talk about some of those ban evasions that were going on? You're going to talk about some of that weirdo shit that used to go on in those chats? Nah, you're not. Nah, you're not. Because you're not on Twitch no more, because Twitch is a bad business, right? And there's nothing to speak on. Or is it going to be one of those situations, oh, that was something that happened, 4 or 5 years ago. Why do we need to bring that up now? I've changed. Most of those people are not even in my audience anymore. You want to go that route? Okay.
At this point, he's been banned off of Twitter for the time being, and his main hub now is on the website Odyssey. Anyway, enough of his backstory. He's basically trying to either ambush you with all the drama questions or sneak on other detractors to surprise you. I wouldn't get lured in with this idea that he's king of the trolls and wants to give you a fair shake, plus point the barrel towards the trolls instead. He knows the crowd wants your blood, and he's been keen on people pleasing. During his interview pitch, he actually treated the mobile game rumor about you as if it were pure facts. He's also made fun of your wife in the past. He's not a good faith. This is not a good faith offer. Your usual trolls will just keep trying to convince you to do it, so keep an eye out. All right. So here's the thing. All right. After I got this email, I just happened to jump on YouTube and search for the guy. And
I just happened to jump on YouTube and search the guy? But I thought you said initially that you didn't know he was Brightside Bob, which means you had an idea of who he was anyway. Because when Brightside Bob comes up, depending on how depends on what you've been watching, I should say, Metokur usually comes up not too far behind that. And then the the level of paranoia that you heard in that email, or that message, if you will, is indicative of why DSP acts the way he acts too. He ain't sat there and riled people all up to feel the exact same way he does. Which, let's actually address another thing that's personal, right? About how he sat there and fear-mongered Catherine off the internet. Let's talk about that. Why is it that that girl, or that woman, when she left Subaru Man, she had to give up all of her social media accounts just to be with you? Why is that a thing? Why did that happen? Why did that even have to happen? And that's something that happened pretty public too. And you even kind of tried to justify it as it was a way of protecting, protecting you and protecting her, and you guys allegedly trying to protect each other. But then you got mad during the Halloween stream, which was what, 2018, I think that was. The 2018 Halloween stream, you sat there and said that Tevin led the troll brigade, and that's what ran Catherine off the internet. But then you've said at least 2 other times since then that because of things that happened to you on the internet, Catherine actually cries about it. I think the first situation was when he got demonetized off Twitch, and the second time, supposedly, was the fact that every time they bring up his incident, she cries about it. I don't know, Slim, but that don't. Neither one of those. Maybe the first one, maybe him getting demonetized off Twitch, maybe, but the second one doesn't sound right at all, being that essentially pre-exists even her. And she doesn't talk to anybody on the internet, so what is there to get upset about? You would think she would be more upset at her sister Jenna calling you a pedo than you jerking off on the internet in front of a fucking bunch of people and shit. And didn't even have the decency to get up and wash your hands. I don't know. Whatever.
In regards to him and me, was the most toxic shit I've ever seen. This guy, as far back as 8 years ago, yes, as far back as when I moved across the country from Connecticut to Washington, was making toxic ass content about me, benefiting from slandering me, saying really nasty things about myself and other people who I associate with. Basically a scumbag. I know nothing about this guy's personal situation at all. All I'm judging on is based on what I saw with a 5-minute search on YouTube, and what I saw was some of the most toxic, worthless content I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe that anyone would watch that kind of shit, but then again, that's the vast majority of shit. That's a lot of popular stuff on YouTube, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm just shaking my head like, what would possess someone like this to want to interview me? It's obvious. It's because they want to basically do a setup where they're going to just attack me, you know? So no, I'm not doing an interview with this guy. By the way, he never asked me anyway. So I mean, complete waste of my time to even bother with this guy. So I would not consider interviewing with him, only on the sole focus that if you look back, you can see so much hateful content he made about me. This isn't like, okay, let me give you some perspective.
Now here's another thing I want to point out too. How is it that DSP can sit there and tell you when his past is thrown up in his face, I've grown, I've matured, I've gotten better. I used to troll on the internet. I used to do all these dumb things, and I grew up, man. I got better, yada, 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 yada. How do you know that Metokur's view of you hasn't changed slightly over the years? Now, let's be honest and call a spade a spade. He knows you're a piece of shit, clearly, right? You haven't changed. You've gotten worse, clearly. But the way he viewed you then and how he views you now might be different. Maybe doing that interview would open and being able to ask you the type of questions that he wants to ask you, and maybe you giving him a competent, if you can even muster that, a competent answer might give him guides to rethink his position on you as not only as a person but as a content creator. There could be some level of, not really camaraderie, but there could be some level of respect that could be gained on both sides if you would be willing to do that. But back to my original point, how is it that everybody else who's ever said anything upon you or about you is a scumbag? All they do is make nasty, useless, mindless, brainless fucking content, and they're not worth a damn. But you get to sit there and say, I've changed for the better, and no one wants to give me a chance or give me an opportunity when you do the exact same thing. How does that make sense? And how does that give anybody reason to try to look at you in a different light, right? Or give you a chance and opportunity that you're not willing to give yourself? You haven't grown. You're still that spiteful piece of garbage that they said you were in the FGC, and all you did was move from one place to another. You haven't changed at all. You've just become more boring. You've become more dull because you felt like if you did that, it would keep people from doing This Is How You Don't Play and other things that I've said before. And yet, ironically enough, and it's funny how this all came to pass, you just made the content more boring. It only hurt you. Because when one detractor falls, like 3 or 4 of them fucking show up in this place. Like a hydra in a lot of ways. So that's not going to stop. That's probably never going to stop. DSP will always have detractors. It is what it is. Just like Wings will always have namesayers, just like Lothar God will. That's just the cards you guys were dealt. So the one time, which is right now, you are given an opportunity to give any of these people a chance to actually get to hear you out and actually have a discussion or a conversation with these people, you won't do it because you still judge them on their past misdeeds in air quotes. but yet you want to be completely and utterly exonerated, and if nothing else, you want to be given not clemency, but immunity from what you've done. And that's why you're never going to go nowhere. And that's why the interview with anybody who doesn't know you won't ever go anywhere either. But we'll see.
You can look at someone like Destiny, all right? Destiny is a guy who, over the years, he listened to all the detractor memes about me, and he's talked about them every once in a while. Yeah, it's hurtful when he does. But does he fucking sit there and make a series of hateful videos? Does he every moment keep making fun of me? Does he really No. He's kind of he'll casually hear about something, talk about it, and he moves on, all right? That's called normal human behavior. That's not obsessive behavior. That's not slanderous behavior.
Really?
You know what I'm saying?
What about when you used to shit on PewDiePie over and over and over again? What about when you used to shit on all of the other top guys in the gaming community over and over and over again, and after you getting called out multiple times on it, oh, it's jealousy. It's jealous. It's a natural human reaction to have, yada, 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 yada. So if you do something stupid and Destiny decides to speak on it, oh, he doesn't harp about it all the time, so that's being normal. Even though Destiny, if you've ever watched any of his videos or the clips of it where he talks about this shit, he completely and utterly breaks you down to the most basic fucking caveman level on your thinking and why you're at where you're at. It's for Destiny and for Metokur in a lot of ways. It was quality over quantity. And you're so stupid that you don't see that. You're so incompetent that you don't realize these guys didn't have to do much to have the same type of effect. And you've tricked yourself into believing otherwise. And that is hilarious. Sad too. But it's actually kind of hilarious. How does that make you feel? Or how do you think people are going to perceive you under that perspective, if you will? Oh, because this person hasn't talked about me so much, it's hurtful, but it's not as hurtful as someone who makes content on me every day. Despite the fact that those people probably have more eyes on them as they did it and as they were doing that content than the average person who does content on you every day. But see, you don't look at it that way, right? Because it's easier to hate what you see every day. And it's easier to minimize what happens to you occasionally. I suppose. I guess. I guess.
And by the way, that's just one example. There's other people out there as well who are kind of the same, and those are the kind of people who I'm maybe interested in talking with in my interview. Not someone who literally campaigned to slander me to get personal benefit. You know, like Rich from Review Tech USA, or, you know, like Keemstar this year. Like, these people are out of their fucking minds if they think that I would do an interview with them. They're nuts, you know? Anyway, so that's the deal with that.
Actually, let me point out something about that too, real quick. Not the Rich situation. That is what that is. But as it pertains to Keemstar, the fact that these three idiots, meaning DSP, Wings, and Boogie, didn't take the deal, right? You see how all three of them have kind of gotten fucked ever since? Like, ever since then, DSP just keeps running into bad shit after bad shit. Garbage disposal don't work, car broke down, yada yada yada. Wings Wings' wife almost got fucked by another man, and Wings almost had to deal with it, and he probably still going to. And Boogie invested his money poorly, and now he's not broke, to the last that I heard, but he's in pretty bad financial straits. All of that shit happened before Keem. All this stuff happened after, I should say, after Keem presented them with this opportunity. Boy, the curse of Keemstar is something real, man. Fucking A, bro. I mean, look at Def Noodles. Jesus Christ.
Doing an interview with this guy, Mr. Metokur, or whatever the hell his name is. That's off the table. Okay. So now, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Alright. So, there's that. Like I said, that's my thoughts on the whole interview proposal. Like I said, there's some great candidates out there, but if he's DSP is not going to make he's not going to make a move, not in the way that he probably should or the way you guys think, and because of that, it's going to cost him. It's going to cost him greatly, and you know, it's unfortunate, but it's also par for the course. To be honest with you, it shouldn't be anything that, you know, is out of the norm. DSP has never been able to take advantage of advantages that have been presented to him. He always finds a way to fuck it all up, and it's his ego. I know people keep bringing up his pride. DSP has no pride. I promise you, he doesn't have pride. It's completely and totally his ego. And like any little worm, cockroach type, parasite type individual, it'll do anything it can to try to save itself. Even at its own deficit, to be honest with you, or to its own advantage. So I'm not surprised by much of anything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give me a second to go ahead and straighten up. We'll close out shop, and that'll be it. That'll be that. If I remember to, I will ask. Actually, I'll just have Diggs do it. I'll have the link to his supercut down in the description. If it's not actually posted, then it's at least unlisted, something along those lines. And then if anybody ever needs it for anything, they can grab it. If not, I'll just give you the URL should be still available, or I can just have them put the URLs for the original stuff down in the description. You can grab it from there too. Oh, excuse me. All right, so I'll see you guys in just a second. Let's see, what should we play out with? Something new. Oh, that'll work. This'll do. All right. Okay, so all right, where we go from here? Bit rusty. But we'll see how this goes. I've missed quite a bit, so I'll try to catch up accordingly based on how I feel and so on and so forth. And I will go from there. I don't want to say what ideas or plans I have moving forward, because life comes at you fast, as I've always been upfront with you guys on. But we'll see. We'll just see how it happens. I'd like to at least tell you that I'll be putting up content in some type of way, shape, or form. Always late, never breaking, unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Very much a GTG Network of Productions. Big ups to Chio. Big ups to all of you and whatnot. I guess my initial closing thoughts are: you cannot write DSP or anybody else. You can't write people out of history like that. Whether DSP realizes it or not, Metokur is very much part of his history, and he has a golden opportunity, no pun intended, to address it. It's as good as it's ever going to get, and it's an opportunity that he should take, to be honest with you. But DSP is very intimidated by Metokur's intellect. He's definitely going to be intimidated by his approach, even though Metokur is a pretty mellow guy, especially these days. DSP is going to be very intimidated by those things, and his paranoia is just going to it's going to botch the whole situation, as it would in any situation, I think, honestly, that he'd be in. So that's unfortunate. But time will tell. We'll see who gets the interview. We'll see what's what. I still am very much under the idea that people will get a lot more attention. And if they choose to profit off it, they'll profit a lot more off of reacting to the interview than actually doing it. To be honest with you, whoever it is that does the interview, no matter how big or small their channels or platforms are, they're really just a sacrificial lamb for what comes next, and that's the real problem. At the end of the day, the person who does that interview is not going to get a real payoff out of it. In that, they're not going to get to the truth, and they're not really going to benefit themselves or a DSP. It won't matter. People will take that interview and then look him up and find all that detractor content, and there'll be just even more people to watch and to laugh at it. And that's what it's really going to come down to when it's all said and done. If DSP believes anything beyond that, he is only hurting himself. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. And I will see you guys for the next broadcast, whenever that may be. Hopefully sooner than later. But, we will see. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Snort Report. This is DSP News. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh, yes. A GTG Network and Productions. For myself, my assistant Diggs, everybody here at GTG Network and Productions, everybody at SnortBucks Coffee Company, the best beverage company, and for all my fellow detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, take care of yourselves. See you guys on the next one. Later. See how professional that sounded? See, that's professional. Yeah.